We're good whenever you are, please.
I want to call the meeting to order at 6:52. There are no scheduled hearings. If you want to have any public input, and you're on Zoom, meeting ID number is 819-0942-2787, and the passcode is 805851. This is live on Channel 9, and it will be repeated, and it should be live also on YouTube. I would ask everybody to stand for pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
I respectfully request a moment of silence for the following Dayton residents who have passed since our last meeting. Our condolences go out to the families of these citizens. Christopher Pimento, Virginia Rico, Peter White.
Thank you. Schedule one, number 5. Recognition of Dayton Public Library recognizes transforming community. The town of Dayton Board of Selectmen, 979 Sunset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. 02715. Certificate of recognition. We, the undersigned, do hereby recognize the Dayton Public Library, to whom we extend our sincere congratulations on being selected to participate in libraries transforming communities, focused on small and rural libraries and American Library Association initiatives. To bring us a winner up, we want to set our hands across the great seal of the town of Dayton to be affixed on this 29th day of September 2021. The Board of Selectmen in the town of Dayton. Chico Chairman, Selectman Hull as the clerk, and Selectman Socrates as a member. Jocelyn, you want to speak on this, please?
Congratulations.
Well, I have a question. It's 300, only 300 communities in the whole country, am I correct?
In this round, there was, the first round, there were maybe a little less than that. It recognizes the work of small and rural libraries. We get overlooked, as you know, and it's to help us focus on the needs of our communities, and we're doing that through community engagement, which we're starting our first community conversation next Tuesday, and we're taking a look at the library. We've always heard residents discussing, or we've heard concerns of our residents and patrons about the ability to stay in their homes, being able to afford staying in their homes, and that's only gotten more critical as time has gone on. We've also heard about the concerns about the development in Dayton and people's concerns about the environmental impact and the sustainability and the impact to town infrastructure and services, and how to maintain the town's character and way of life, and how the town that everyone loves, how do you keep that united and piece all these things together, especially with the recognition that people need housing and a strong community needs stable housing. So I welcome anyone to the conversation. The Zoom link is on our website. It's next Tuesday at 6:30, and we were awarded $3,000 for it. I mean, it's a small grant, but with it, we were able to renew our Zoom subscription. We'll be purchasing better equipment for digital programming, and we were able to add a streaming digital resource, a video resource for our patrons and residents, so.
I want to thank you, thank Phyllis and all the people that work with you. I also appreciate what you've done with the transition from Andrew Carnegie Building to the lower half of the town hall, as well as the new modular, which I will have an update later on in the meeting, and hopefully we'll be opening up next week.
It's a good time to thank your board for your support, Town Administrator Mullen, the Highway Department, Building Inspector, Superintendent Ferry is here tonight. They've been absolutely amazing in getting us to all these different places, and so I'm grateful for everyone's support.
I also want to thank the library trustees.
And did I miss them? I didn't
know.
mean to.
I missed that.
They've been by my side for a long time, so I really, really appreciate them. I'm kind of embarrassed.
I missed them, so that's why I was mentioning it. Selectman Howell, did you have a question?
The meeting next Tuesday will also be on Zoom.
It will only be on Zoom, just for space considerations. And I also want to thank our friends. So I have a lot of people to thank. I feel like I'm at an award show. So,
And I think that information is on your Facebook page.
yes, it was.
So again, congratulations. and
Thank you.
for all the work you've done.
Thank you all.
Next agenda item is the proposed reopening of prime time. We received a letter from our accountant indicating the last time we did it, that we had a full staff and full number of people as patients over there at the time 2019, that it showed that it was balanced out, that we did not necessarily lose any money. The revenue was $70,065, the expenses were $70,801.11, but we also had a donation or a gift from Romero of $20,000, and we have a balance of $38,242.06. So we're thinking about reopening prime time, which I think is a great thing. As everybody's seen the form that those that will be attending need to sign if they're going to be involved over there. Any comments about whether or not we should be opening prime time? We have a member from the Council on Aging, Mr. Ferry, as well as Alice, but if either one of you want to speak on this?
Wanted to say the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. We have a lot of vulnerable members. I have here tonight a whole packet that we do. It's an intake form that we do for all our clients as they come in. I have a calendar of events that we have and some pictures that I thought you all would like to see. Got enough?
Are you happy that we're going to take a vote next week?
I'm excited and delighted and everything else.
I assume everybody would have to wear a mask over there.
I believe we all will wear masks, yes.
But it's
Yeah,
very
and
vulnerable.
clients.
Number of people, so we want to be careful. Any questions, Dr. Serratos?
I just wanted to ask what the recommendation, if any, from our town administrator was on this.
Mr. Chairman? And I want to thank Mr. Susan, Mr. Ferry, the Council on Aging Board of Directors as well for their efforts. Also, the pandemic task force has been meeting on this issue, the reopening of prime time throughout summer with, Ms. Susan, Mr. Ferry as well. We recommend the reopening of prime time as well. I've noted actually a few moments ago, based on the state protocols, both the employees of the program and the clients of the program will be required to wear masks. So, and those requirements outlined in state protocols, for similar, and the exact same type of programming, as well. We met, I believe it was, 3 times throughout the summer, and most recently, early this month as well. We made a recommendation, that recommendation, was also supported by the Council on Aging Board of Directors as well. And in the last week of August, the town accountant, the COA director, and Mr. Ferry and I met to review, as you mentioned, the fiscal position of the program, and we did confirm from the last, actually full fiscal year, that the prime time program was operational, that it was a self-sustaining program. So going forward, we're all going to keep a very close eye on things, close eye on the fiscal position, a close eye on where we are relating to COVID, in the protocols and the health and safety and well-being of our employees and our clients. But at this point, we are recommending, we're excited to recommend, a reopening of prime time.
Selectmen Scroffus.
What was the date that it's gonna reopen?
It'll be the Tuesday after Columbus Day is what we're targeting right
That
now.
was the 18th of October.
Oh, it's the week after that, I'm sorry. So Monday, that's the 18th?
Yeah.
Monday, the 18th, I apologize.
I have no further questions.
That would be my mother's old 104th birthday. So she finally made it. She was actually the 19th, so she wanted that extra day. But we always still consider October 18th as a birthday. Selectmen, you got a question?
Actually, it's for Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond, we recently hired an accountant
Yes.
who went through the practices, financial, budgetary practices of prime time. And she has said that it's working well within budgetary and accounting practices.
Yes, it's self-sustaining.
For the record,
Yes.
could we have her write a letter certifying that, and that it be admitted into the permanent record?
Yeah, we have the email here
We have an email and it's on record.
with all the information as well. So, and all that is in here. So, and again, one of the things as well, especially in so-called indirect costs and charge back, going forward, and with the program operational again, it's gonna be easier. And I don't want to say easier in a lazy way, but easier to see in real time what the operational expenses are, what is coming in and what is going out. And that's, in 6 months, a year, in 2 years from now, we might have a different thought. We might actually see things that actually may come up, and we're going to be diligently watching to see where we are in the fiscal position of the program going forward. Now that we're here, because we weren't here fiscal year 2019, so we want to look at how things are also going to be going forward as well.
I asked this question because during previous budget negotiations, there were questions expressed and concerns, perceptions, if you will, by people in public. And alarming for me, my first budgetary process, was some of the questions asked by members of income.
Understood.
And I'm asking for this because we want to put those concerns to rest as we move forward.
Yes. So in effect, Mr. Chairman, just on that, and I wasn't here at the time, but I think I was here for those conversations. But I wasn't here for the first part of fiscal year 21, and the latter part of fiscal year 20. So I can't speak to the concern, but what I think they might have been alluding to is the fact that for the past year and a half, we have had no revenue as a town coming in through the prime time program. but we have had expenses. Like in terms of maintaining all your different types of staff and programming and those things. So one could have argued that the town, for the last year and a half, has been in part, actually subsidizing things to keep things level. So now with things back in operational, we're gonna have a true fiscal position because we are not only gonna have expenses, we are gonna have real revenues to support those expenses as well.
Now, in regards, you mentioned that the town had been supporting it.
Yes,
That was through the budgetary process.
yes,
And that was through the legislative process, if you will. The
Yes.
requests came before,
oh, yes,
and they were approved by FinCom and the Board of Selectmen.
the entry town meeting, yes.
Dr. Z?
I just wanted to make one comment. I think the points raised by my colleagues, I really think the forecasting that the financial team, where the new town assessor, Mrs. Schechter, will start, I believe, on Monday.
Yes.
Mrs. Vining, town administrator, have been working on that, and I think that will help track the financial viability of the program. And then my question, if I may, Mrs. Susan, my question for you is, and it's more just off the top of your head, because I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, but how many clients intend on returning to use the program services? Like, do you have a percentage number that were clients before the
Right now, we
pandemic?
have about 10 that are going to return.
Okay, of how many total?
Well, I
Fine.
can't remember when we closed what we had, but we have 22 on a waiting list.
That sounds like a lot.
So we'll be, yeah, well, we've been closed for all this time.
Mhm.
But the people that were there, we've lost a couple, you know, one of them passed away and went to an assisted living, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But the ones that we've been calling and being in touch with are planning on coming back and we're excited about it.
And may I make one suggestion?
Sure.
When the financial team meets to do their forecasting thing, is it possible when that forecasting meeting is specifically about a prime time, that some sort of representative would be present at that meeting? And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ferry, do you wanna make any comments? As the member of the Conference.
Yes, good evening. The only thing I'd like to add is Alice alluded to the waiting list. That waiting list is going to continue waiting. The tentative date of 18th is a soft opening, just the current client's going to be right back, work out a few more bugs, and we may even have to delay it a week or so, because part of reopening is very important to have a janitor. So after tonight's vote, we're going to continue. We're hoping to have that, actually, it's on your agenda to point that, but we're not ready for that. So we actually are in need, and it's listing, we have a need for part-time help for janitorial. It's, that cleanliness is very important for us to reopen. So we're looking for that. Then we're going to explore that waiting list.
Nope, you answered my question. So it's just the 10 returning clients, and then does the program, this is my question for you or for Mrs. Souza, does the program have the capacity to engage or to service all 32 people? So the 22 on the waiting list plus the 10 returning?
With some minor part-time adjustments on that staffing needs.
Okay.
To make sure we have the staff-to-client ratio, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And that 10 is not 10 per day, or it's not gonna be 20 per day.
Okay.
They're staggered, some people with twice a week or 3 times a week.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
So that helps with the COVID staging.
Any other questions from the board?
None.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we reopen prime time effective Monday, October 18th,
Sorry, I had to look it all up.
Second,
Any discussion? I just want to make a comment that I think prime time is going to get past it. We found the Dayton will continue to be, I'm very happy that it's going to open up again with your guidance, Alice. And I look forward to it, and it's really a benefit for residents in town and other people who are in need.
Thank you.
I'll ask for a vote. How do you vote, Selectman?
Aye.
Selectman Scroffus?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye.
May I make one request? When you do the monthly calendar, do you mind sending a copy to the selectmen's office? I don't
We
get
do get a copy.
Oh, we do get a
We do
copy?
get a
Yeah, there are some events that are.
And for some of us, who are over the age of 60, we get a copy at home.
I just received yours next time.
I'll bring my copy in with me. Thank you, no, we do get a copy. The office does get a copy.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is to review, discuss, and act on council on the agent recommendation to hire for prime time. This is for a maintenance person. Yes?
And yet, nothing to recommend tonight.
Oh, you're not gonna recommend tonight?
No, that's, meaning we're still searching.
Oh,
So if someone's out there has an interest in a part-time job, we're still searching.
okay, I thought we were just gonna post it now. So we're not posted, it's already
We're
out there, and now it's a matter of hours. Okay. Thank you.
yes.
So we don't have.
It's been reposted on our website actually earlier today, and it's also on the town Facebook for anyone interested.
I did see it, and I thought it was kind of early since we didn't vote on it, but explains why. That's,
So yeah, we wanted to be prepared. Oh, and also there's a contingency, in the job posting that if there's a decision then not to reopen prime time, that we wouldn't, have to be expected to hire anyone.
and while we have you, standing, Superintendent Tenafurley, we want to review, discuss, and act on hiring, high snowplow rates. Are these rates that were presented to us, are they the same as they were last year, or is it an increase? Let me just read what the rates are. Please consider the following rates to be used for 2021, 2022 winter hire snowplows. Pickups under 1 ton, $8. 1 ton trucks up to 26,000 trucks with at least 9 plow, $90. Trucks over 26,000 pounds with at least a 10-foot plow, $100. And loaded with 3-yard bucket, $120 for the casual hire driver for our trucks, $27.06.
So to answer your question, all the trucks, right, up $5. It's still in the range of the local vicinity and also the associates group that we're in. We have a survey every year based on last year. One thing me and Mike agree on, we talked earlier this summer, some other towns are going with incentives like early sign-on bonuses or bonuses, club blades, fuel. That's a road that we're not comfortable going down at this time. And with the challenges these contractors are facing with the insurance problems, working comp, we still want to be a competitive town. I think those are accurate figures and we should be in good shape. The casual hire drivers, that figure I got off the collective bargaining, without the operator class 1, there's a line in just for the driver. And that, because that gets overlooked every year. So if we're using that number, that will get adjusted as the collective bargaining rotates, whatever the 2.5 or the 2% that's even considered every year, and then we should be spot on taking care of those people.
Does the board have any questions? Selectman Mr. Crofts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ferry, the first 4 rates from pickups under 1 ton to the loader with 3-yard bucket, which of the 4, or maybe all of the 4, changed from the prior winter season?
Just the trucks, the loader remained the same. We very rarely would consider hiring a loader. So all the trucks went up $5.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Any other questions from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the hired snowplow rates for the 2021-2022 winter season as prepared this evening.
second.
Any further discussion? If not, let's vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Zabrafis?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also aye. So those are the rates.
Thank you, sir.
Next agenda item is public input. If you don't have any public input, please give your name and address. Anybody here for public input?
My phone's dying. I'll call back on another phone.
We'll wait for you, Patrick.
Well, we'll have public input later on also in the evening. Any other? Anybody else on Zoom that wants a public input? If not, we'll go to announcements, Selectman Zubakis.
The Town of Dayton Food Bank distribution will be held next on October 16th, 2021 at Town Hall, lower level, 979 Somerset Avenue. And bear with me just a moment, I'm just gonna read a quick list of vacancies. Cable Television Committee has 2 vacancies, Capital Outlay Committee has 1, Cemetery Commission has 1, Commission on Disabilities has 3, Development and Industrial Commission has 2, Finance Committee has 2, Historical Commission 1, Human Rights Committee 3, Land Use Committee 2, Open Space Committee 3, Superintendent of Pest Control, TIF Review Board 2, and Zoning Board of Appeals 3. And also, don't forget the presentation by the Dayton Public Library next week.
Thank you. Selectman Hull?
In regards to the Development and Industrial Committee, I will be discussing our first meeting that's held on Monday, and I need to clarify those 2 vacancies that board voted to make them earmarked positions, and I'll explain that in their specific organizations that those vacancies were.
Thank you. The next agenda items is boards and committee spotlight. Tonight is the Historical Commission, and we have the chairperson of the Historical Commission, Patricia Beal.
I'm back. Well, as you know, I'm Pat Gales, and I'm the chairperson of the Historical Commission. We're an appointed board of the town. We have 6 members right now, and we've just received a volunteer application to fill our 7th spot. We'll be interviewing the candidate on October 12th, our next meeting. So we're kind of excited about that. I want to be like Blake Shelton on The Voice and say the team is full. So anyway, the members that are here tonight, Bill Pruitt is here, Rafa Delphin is here, Pat Olson and myself. Missing is Pam Nickerson. I don't know if Gail Salve, she said she might zoom in. No? No, I can't see that far, even with my glasses.
Nope.
So she's also a member. Ken Pacheco is our Board of Selectmen liaison, and we meet on the 2nd Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. First thing I want to say is this year is a very special milestone for one of our members, Patricia Olson. As some of you may have seen Pat with her tiara on, celebrating, she's been serving on the Historical Commission for 10 years. She's an ardent supporter of preserving Dayton's history, and she's an important link to the work of the past historical commissions. She's also the reason why I'm standing here, because she bugged me. Are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it? Right, Pat? So I would like to publicly thank Pat for her contributions and her dedication to the history of Dayton. Thanks, Pat.
If I had known, I would have worn the tiara.
I was gonna ask you, don't wear it all the time?
Didn't it look natural? So our mission statement is, in accordance with the Massachusetts State Law, Chapter 40, Section 8D, the Dayton Historical Commission identifies, protects, and preserves the historical heritage and resources of the town of Dayton. So in striving to meet our mission, we've been very active this year. We've reinstated the Boston Post-Cane program, honoring the oldest citizen in Dayton. This year, we honored Mrs. Maria Barboza, she was our 2020 recipient, and Mrs. Virginia Sylvia, our 2021 recipient. We've purchased a plaque with the names of all of the recipients of the Boston Post-Cane, and it will be displayed in the case in the back, right there, with the original cane. The building department and Jim Aguirre and Tom Ferry have been very helpful in getting that case to us for us to use for a display. We've instituted the historical marker program to recognize our historic buildings and properties. So far, we've had 2 markers that have been purchased by the property owners and are now displayed on their houses. The first one is the Winslow Davis House, which is owned by the Dayton Historical Society. And the other day, we honored 400 Lincoln Avenue, which is owned by Rafa Delphin and Dan Higgins. And it just looks so marvelous on those homes. We've just received a 3rd application for a marker, and we're anticipating at least 2 more in the very near future. These markers help to highlight that you know this house has a place in the history of Dayton. So we're encouraging homeowners of the historic properties to come forward to honor the history of their houses. The information is available on the town webpage under the Historical Commission. Or you can contact one of the commission members and we'll be glad to get you the application. I even brought some with me tonight in case anyone wants one. The town of Dayton has also hired a preservation consultant to complete the Dayton's community-wide historic properties survey update. And this is possible through the funding from the Community Preservation Committee and funding in part with federal funds from the National Park Service, the U.S. Department of the Interior, through the Massachusetts Historical Commission. Now, we're really excited about this project to update the survey, and we look forward to working with Stacy Spies. She's the preservation consultant we hired. She'll be doing property surveys throughout town on older homes. We're starting with our older homes first. She'll be doing external examinations, taking photos, and making notes about some of the older properties in town. So we will notify the police department when she's in town so that people know that she's not just, you know, doing unsaid things, who knows. Looking forward to our future plans, we can plan to continue to document our historic properties. We're educating ourselves and the public about the wonderful, rich history of Dayton and its preservation for future generations. Prior to COVID, we had started an inventory of the Commission's holdings. We plan to continue that inventory and complete the archival storage of these materials. We have 2 National Register historic districts, the Wharf District on Pleasant Street and the Quorum Shipyard District on Water Street, and plans are in progress to highlight these areas. The commission is a really hardworking group. We're really excited about the history of Dayton and bringing it forward to the public. So on behalf of the commission, I'd like to thank everyone that's here tonight and the townspeople of Dayton for their continued support and interest in Dayton's rich and significant history. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you and the Historic Commission for all the work you've done. I've never seen it as active as I've seen it. Mr. Rosa?
Yeah, sorry.
As it has been. Since the tricentennial, we were busy then because we had all that going on, but since then, you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Regarding the plaque, if you do purchase one of these plaques for your old house, you do get 1 year's free membership in the Dayton Historical Society, with the exception if you already are a member, Rafa, you don't get dues. But that is a little bonus.
Right.
So, just want people to know that. Selectmen.
Ms. Gales, I know there had been some talk about the North Dayton Chase Street area. Has any work formally?
Oh, don't steal my thunder.
I'm sorry.
No, we've talked about that area and we have a grant committee because we're not done going for grants. We met the other day and so we're starting to draft some grant language for that area in North Dayton.
My father worked closely with J.K. Miller.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about the history.
That's a significant area of history for many reasons. And it really needs to be recognized. So yeah, we're on it.
Okay, no, thank you.
Did you doubt me, Lenny?
No, I wasn't sure where it was at, because I had heard
Yeah.
there had been discussions
Oh, I'm just
on
giving
the
you a hard
commission
time,
about
yeah.
it, but I didn't know how far those discussions had progressed.
Thank you, Selectman Sopranos.
Yes, two things. So that is, I'm really excited to hear that that area will be explored. And I do have one request, and I know, I'm probably putting the cart before the horse on it, but at whatever point where more history about that area and the Mulligan family needs to be uncovered, if you could contact Dr. Bob Sir. I
Oh, yeah.
believe he is, his former wife, his late wife actually, was a relative or a descendant of that family. So he is seeking the knowledge, and I'm sure he would love to be an asset for this.
That's a good suggestion, and he is, yes.
He's got it. He lives on Green Acres. I always
Yeah.
joke about it. When I what was it? Oh, the ceremonies, I'm sorry. I do have one question about these marker ceremonies.
Yep.
And it's just a suggestion. I don't know, everyone has different schedules. I don't know if they're a big thing or a small thing, but I would love to attend one if I'm invited. If the board is invited, I would love to.
We can post them as, a public meeting because, there's more than a quorum for the commission to be there, so they are posted.
Mhm.
But we can definitely let you know when there's going to be one.
Thank you.
Take those history.
Thank you, Ms. Liskey.
Okay, you're welcome.
Next agenda item is the town administrators.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few things this evening, I'll try to make them quick. Just really to follow up on an earlier conversation about the reopening and the full opening of the Dayton Public Library. At this point tonight, I want to thank the director of the library. I want to thank the board of trustees, our building commissioner, and our highway superintendent and their staffs have been absolutely phenomenal. Every day we have a punch list of items, whether it's phones, whether it's lighting, any shelving, a whole bunch of things. And everyone has actually been working amazingly. And all of us are very happy to announce at this point that we do expect a full opening for both the lower conference room youth services level in the lower level of town hall and in the modular building this coming Monday. The hours that we're anticipating at this point is on Mondays, the library will be open from 12 to 8. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the library will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. It will be closed on Fridays, but it will be back open on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And we're very excited on that. We've been working with the staff, the library staff have been absolutely phenomenal. They've gone way over and above and moving and planning and organizing. They've really taken ownership of everything happening, and they've been extremely proud of actually what we and what they have made work. Understanding and given all the circumstances and situations that we're in. So again, we've been working on lending. We've been working with Comcast. Karen has been phenomenal as well, working with Comcast and all the technological issues. We will have Wi-Fi and internet, in public access Wi-Fi in both spots, in both the lower level of town hall, and in the modular building as well. And everything we're doing, including the hours, is up to snuff with the requirements, of the Mass Board of Library Commission. So we're excited. We have, all of our library programming operational, in the building and together, for the first time in about a year and a half. So it's exciting, Mr. Chairman. Any questions on that before I move on?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody who was involved in that, again, Herculean effort to get, to have a continuity of service, but also to physically move things across town is really, really appreciated, so I just want everyone to know that.
And if I can add one other thing as well. With everything ready to go with the modular now, so at this point, we're gonna refocus, turn our attention back to a more long-term plan, like in planning with the trustees, with the staff at the library and all of us throughout the community, so about what we want, what we expect, actually our library future to be. So, I think that conversation will begin happening in earnest very quickly, so.
Selectman Hull?
For the sake of staying on task
Mm-hmm.
and transparency,
Mm-hmm.
there was a task force that was created for phase one, which has been completed. The next phase, my understanding, is the remodeling of the building to bring it up to code,
Yes,
specifically ADA.
yes,
Working with Mr. Aguirre in particular,
Yes.
specifically leading the building reconstruction, could we get a schedule?
yes.
It doesn't have to be every meeting, but a schedule that we can expect updates
Yes,
on a regular basis, but not, not every meeting,
Yeah.
maybe every other meeting. So that we know work is actually progressing, bidding,
yes,
issues that come up along the way.
yes. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, provide an update on that because it is actually relevant and timely. About 2 weeks ago now, we met the building commissioner, the ADA coordinator, and myself. We met with the architect who is doing the drawings for that accessibility project. And we expect around probably in a week and a half to have the first final, the final set of drawings for that accessibility project. We reviewed the draft set of drawings where everything where everything was drafted. We provided some feedback, and the architect has gone back to the drawing board on a few things. So we'll have an update probably, hopefully, if not at the next meeting, the meeting after that on this.
Another question. Financing for that project,
Yes.
is there a plan, or will we need to come back either to FinCom, the Board of Selectmen, or the town for homeland?
We, the voters and the residents of the town at the November 2020 special town meeting, they approved, I believe it was $105,000 in funding to address these issues. About $14,000 of that $105,000 in funding went to actually fund the drawings that are being completed by the architect. So we'll have 105 minus, I think, $91,000 to do the construction, but really we want to actually see what comes back in the final drawings, and there's going to be actually a proposed cost of what everything in the drawing would be as well. So we'll see how close to the cost is to have available funding, and then we'll update the board at that time.
The money that was approved
Mm-hmm.
was approved in a prior fiscal year, so do we have to use that by any particular time?
So that was a special article funding, so it can carry over fiscal years. Moving on to the COVID-19 update, and we do have the chairman of the Board of Health, and our health agent here tonight as well, but just an update, and then if they have anything to add after, but the last, so where we were, our 2 week total of cases, last week, was 39 cases. 39 confirmed cases. This week we are down to 35 cases. Like I did actually working with everybody, we did since our last meeting on September 20th. We had a meeting of the pandemic task force as well to review where we were, and where we have been trending. And we talk, even though we're not meeting, we talk at different levels almost every day. So about where we are and what our numbers are showing. But at this point, we're still encouraging the wearing of facial coverings in all municipal buildings. We're supporting local contact tracing efforts being conducted, actually conducted by town employees. Our increased cleaning protocols in municipal buildings, they remain in place. And we're actually working with our cleaning vendor as well to actually make sure the library modular, all regular cleaning is gonna be transferred to the library modular, and for the increased use of the lower level of town hall and the restroom facilities there, will be increasing that as well based on that. Yes. Yes.
So my only concern would be in the future, so this is not a concern for right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would have a concern when people are actually in the building working,
Yes.
that building's not being cleaned. So can we revisit this then?
So yeah, the building won't be clean while people are in there.
No, what I'm saying is, so that you're saying the physical library is not gonna be clean, we're gonna focus on.
Yes.
Yeah, what I'm saying is when people go in that building to actually do work,
Yes.
then that we should reassess.
Yes, I understand.
Actually people
Yes.
in there.
I don't disagree.
Just clarification on the numbers
Yes.
that you just gave. September 20th to 26th, this is the most recent, there were 18 cases. The week prior to that was 17 cases, and the week prior to that was 22 cases.
Yes.
Something like
Regarding those numbers, do we have a breakdown by age groups?
this week of.
Yes. Just on the-
So for the past week, when we had 18 cases, there were 6 from the age of 0 to 19, 20 to 29 there were 2, 30 to 39 was 4, 40 to 49 was 4, 50 to 64 there was 2, and nobody over 64 was positive.
So the largest number were the age group 0 to
To 19.
19, so that's the schools. With that, well, school age children, with that in mind, I have a question either for, probably more appropriate for Mr. Tilling than Mr. Hines. He works on a direct, everyday basis. Would it be okay if he came up to answer those questions?
If we use,
It's okay with me, since we're just talking about COVID, if it's okay with Mr. Clemens.
Have you been meeting on a regular basis with the people in the school department to discuss what steps they are taking in regards to ensuring the safety of everyone in the building and also cleaning of the building?
To this point, no, we haven't, but we've been meeting with the school nurses and that end of staff, we haven't been meeting with the administration yet this year.
Has the school department submitted any protocols for cleaning to you for review?
They haven't, but they're not obligated to.
And I recognize the fact that we're two separate entities. But one of the things that becomes a concern is the interest of the public, those parents. What reassurances those parents are getting that the appropriate steps are being done, 1, and 2, and most important, that those steps have their approval.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're still following the protocols from last year, given where Desi's at with them, but we have not consulted with them. They last year they reached out to us daily, weekly. about stuff, and they haven't this year, so I'm assuming everything's still in place from last year. But I can reach out to them and find out.
Okay, in regards to that, I'm okay with that, if, you know, the Board of Selectmen and Mr. Bowman are okay with Mr. Pilling doing it directly. Okay.
I know, Ms. Owens, you've been meeting with the school nurses. I attended one of those meetings a couple weeks ago, but I think you're meeting on a weekly basis.
We are
And
working,
they're giving you an update as to number of cases, they're doing some contact tracing on.
yeah, so what they're doing is if a kid in school is positive, they're finding out all the kids who are around them at the lunch table, in the classroom, on the bus, and they're identifying those kids, and they're reaching out to those parents and saying, your kid's now in quarantine.
With that in mind, do you get that to follow up with contact tracing?
Right, so what happens is we end up reaching out to the first kid, the positive one, and we get his contacts outside of school, and then the nurses provide us the names of all the ones that were in the school. So I know you see the numbers of the 17 and the 18. Since then, we've had 8 so far this week. But since we started doing this on September 16th, we're currently following almost 100 people in isolation and quarantine. So it's always like a 3-to-1 ratio. For every contact, there's 3 people that they've been near that are in quarantine. So it's not just, I mean, from our end, the workload is based on quarantine and isolation, not just the positive cases. But the rules this year are a little more confusing between the vaccinated and not vaccinated, indoors and outdoors. We're also consulting and assisting a lot of people that were either home tested or tested by the school nurses who don't show up in Maven and they're not part of that count.
May I ask you a question? Sorry, may I ask you a question about that? Yeah. So what you're saying is, if they don't go in and report it, then no one would know.
So what I'm giving you is the Maven confirmed cases, but that's not the total number of cases in Dayton necessarily, so that's only the ones that Maven's.
So somebody can do a home test, and, you don't get that information unless they report.
But if the nurse tests a student at school, we find out about that one, but it doesn't go into Maven, so.
Thank you.
The school nurses are exasperated, bordering on overwhelmed with the number of cases and quarantines they're following. We're not even 3 weeks into school yet, and I think one of the nurses said they had 37 cases that they're following right now. So it's kind of starting to be a little much for them. So what they're waiting for is the CIC, which I don't know what that stands for, but they're supposed to be starting the test and stay in school. So if you have no symptoms, you can continue to stay to school. When you get off the bus, you get tested in the morning and check for symptoms and all that. But they haven't started yet because they're overwhelmed and understaffed, and hopefully they were supposed to start last week. Hopefully it'll be this week, next week, we don't know. But until that time, the nurses have a lot of work to do.
Selectmen's progress.
This is more just, you had mentioned that you were in routine contact with them last year, and I understand the numbers were probably more, especially at the height of the pandemic, but I guess my question is it unusual that they haven't contacted you? You're saying that the nurses are, there might be, I don't know how to say it, they seem a little bit overwhelmed, so why haven't they reached, you wouldn't know that, let me ask it a different way. Is it unusual that they haven't reached out for assistance or help or?
In a normal year, no, we don't hear from the administration at the school. Last year, it was every time the rules changed, which was every week or two, we were being consulted on it. But the rules this year, they've kind of been in place for a while, and say the cleaning protocols and everything have been in place, so I think that's why they haven't. But I know through the DR school, it goes through Kristen Donahue, so any of her concerns come through her to our meetings. And so I don't necessarily need to meet with the principal and superintendent or the custodians, because she's the go-between.
May I ask one last question on this?
One last question.
So I guess my other concern is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because it was a long year last year, but I believe at some point, weren't we receiving assistance from the school nurses when they had time to do things like contact tracing? And yes, my concern is if things were to ramp up in town, and I think nobody wants that to happen, but we have to be prepared for the worst, right? And hopefully, we don't have that situation, but I guess if something got bad in the town, who do we lean on? We don't have a public health nurse right now, not because of us, because it's just a vacant position that we need to fill. who are we gonna lean on? If they're already overwhelmed at the school, who do we have to help us?
Yep, so when the kids were remote learning, the nurses didn't have any kids coming in to manage kids and regular cases, sniffles and all that. So during that time is when they were giving us their time. Now that school's back in session, their full-time job is taking up their time. So right now, it is Roz and I who are doing it, and if we have questions, we reach out to board members. One in particular who's a health agent, and we can also reach out to the Department of Public Health and the state epidemiologist for more specific help there. But yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because we are two bodies. And you serve as public health agent for the town of Dayton. Do you have any powers by law to enforce mandates on the school district?
The state was nice enough to give all enforcement of all COVID rules to the health agent. It's not the police department, and it's not the selectmen, it's only on the health department. So, yeah, so honestly, on top of your regular job, to throw that into, let's say, being police and walking around, when it all started, if somebody wasn't wearing a mask on the sidewalk, that kind of thing. So it was, yes, so it falls squarely on our shoulders.
And just one comment, thank you for being here tonight, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Because there are a lot of questions that come up as you've seen this evening.
Sure. Well,
Really expert on it.
well, thank you. But anytime you guys want me here, all you gotta do is say it, and I just rearrange my schedule to be here. So our board of health meets on Thursday night, so it's not a problem being on Wednesday night. So.
Any other,
But yeah,
You don't even have to ask.
we have one more question?
Yeah, so I just want a little bit of clarification. So my understanding is that DESE has, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has basically mandated masks in some part in October. So if there were an issue, you would be called. Okay, all right.
So the last thing I want to say is, last year the kids were remote learning and the parents were working from home. So when we put the kids into quarantine, the parents are home, it really wasn't a big deal. This year, there's no remote learning option and the parents return to the office. So quarantine is far more difficult for families. So what this means is, I know all the rules are gone, but when you're out, you try and avoid situations that might get you either sick or just exposed and you gotta go into quarantine, because it's, if you got little kids at home, it can be a problem, say, because now the nurses have to call the teachers to get the packets to send home from the school, and it's just an awful lot of work for everybody, and the kids fall further behind, so, try and avoid that, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Combs, for everything you guys are doing down there.
Thank you. Anything else?
So yeah, in picking up actually with how left off, one of the things, about the question about, especially based on our capacity and the capacity of the Board of Health Department too, in terms of the question, who are we leaning on? What other resources do we have? The state, I think for the better part of the last year and a half, has been working on regional public health grants. And there are approximately right now with 35 new communities entering into some type of regional agreement. Out of the 351 communities in the state, about 250 communities right now, they belong to a regional public health consortium. And it's actually like an ongoing effort. An email was actually sent out, a solicitation email from the Mass Association of Health Boards earlier this month, to the communities of North Attleboro, the city of Attleboro, the town of Plainville, the city of Taunton, the town of Hobart, to the town of Dayton, and the town of Berkeley, about the calling together of a regional public health group that serves our region. So that conversation is in its infancy right now, and there's going to be a lot of a lot of discussion, a lot of details to be worked out. We expect, at this point in the next week or so, there's gonna be an updated RFR actually sent out. I have expressed on behalf of the town that the town of Dayton would be interested in exploring it. In terms of the resources that could be opened up, especially in terms of public health nurse services, which are very critical, and a whole lot of wealth of opportunities. I mean, this has been a model. It's been a model in the western part of the state for a while now. In my last role, I actually brought a few communities together to do exactly what is being envisioned here. So again, we have a little ways to go in terms of the implementation and the potential of an intermunicipal agreement, and all the details that need to be worked out. But at this point, we hopefully are in on the ground level of a really exciting conversation. So I just wanted to give the board an update on that as well. So that is all I have on the code, Mr. Chairman. If I could move on, if that's okay. I do unfortunately have a few other things to update on. I did also want to give an update on our financial team that we've created, and the permitting and land use team that we've established in town as well. And for the financial team, just bear with me for a second. On the financial team, we have established, we began it at the end of the last fiscal year with the town accountant, the town treasurer, the town assessor, along with Ms. Grady and myself. We brought together everyone, and we're going to try to meet on a quarterly basis now, but as we approach actually special town meeting, and as we begin actually planning for the FY23 annual budget, we're going to be meeting more often, just so we are all on the same page. We are aware of any financial issues or trends, hopefully as they're identified, so we're not waiting around for anything. So all of us are on the same page. So that is exciting, and it's also going to be helpful as we begin the financial management review with the Department of Revenue, and also as we move forward into financial forecasting as well. So that already having the model there, I think is really going to be a good thing. And then on the permitting and land use side, we have staff professionals who support all our boards and commissions who are charged with going through the permitting process, whether it's in the Board of Health, the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and the like. And having us meeting regularly, our staff professionals, to make sure we ourselves are coordinated to support all the boards and committees we serve. I think it would allow a lot of things to be streamlined and different things really to be anticipated as we go forward. So I just wanted to actually provide an update on those two things as well. Sorry. We also had our third Capital Outlay Committee meeting last Wednesday night, a week ago tonight. We have sent out a request to all department boards and committees, asking for their help in working with us to try and to plan forward all of our capital needs and their capital needs, so we do it together as a town, beginning in for FY23. So we've asked all department boards and committees to send us a list and all with the accompanying information in the request form by the 18th of November, so we can start FY23 capital planning process. We're very excited to actually having gotten that off the ground and launched at this point. Again, we have a lot of work ahead of us moving forward.
I want to thank you for all the work that you've done with this committee. It involves a lot of work. This is great planning for the town, so we know what our expenses are going to be down the road. So it's a great job you've done on this.
Appreciate it, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do, have one other, additional update before I get to the last update. About a week ago now, we updated the residents of Dayton, that there was an additional mosquito that tested positive for West Nile. So this is also something we, are actively monitoring, and staying on top of. And the town's threat level now is listed as moderate, and I just wanted to share that with the public. But one of the questions I had, and I think other residents had as well, after that information came out, is what was happening with spraying by the Bristol County Mosquito Control Project, with whom we regularly work. And the project until September 10th had Dayton on a weekly Wednesday spraying schedule. However, the spraying is only effective as long as the temperature stays above 55 degrees, and that is why the spraying ended on September 10th. So the mosquito control project will actually continue testing, and they really increase their water management efforts to address any issues relating to standing water, in other areas where mosquitoes regularly breed. But I just wanted to provide that update. The mosquito control project has been diligent. We've been diligent, and we're actively monitoring where we are with the state as well. So we're on top of this. So I wanted to provide that update. The last thing, on a much more, I think, hopeful and positive note, I did want to actually recognize that Fire Chief Chris McGee. Earlier this month, he was elected president of the Blister County Fire Chiefs Association. And we know the work that the chief in his department does and do here in Dayton, based on his leadership. And I just wanted to acknowledge the chief. Not only is the work and leadership respected actually here in Dayton, it's acknowledged and respected by his colleagues, in the fire service who are chiefs, in the county and throughout the state as well. And I just really wanted to thank the chief for all that he does and really recognize that. I think we as a town are really lucky to have the chief. So.
Any board recognizes there's so much more responsibility too. But thank you for you and your staff for the do for the town. It's appreciated. Thank you.
And that is thankfully all I have, Mr. Chairman, in my reports.
Next agenda item is on old business review, discuss and act on Dayton police officers, mascot local 306, collective bargaining agreement, driving through. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we we ratify the agreement between the town of Dayton and Dayton Police Officers Mascot Local 306 Collective Bargaining Agreement as presented this evening.
Second. I just want to, under discussion, just thank Town Administrator Melvin as well as a colleague on the board, Practice of Office, for all the work they've done on this contract. We've had many meetings. I want to thank the police officers for coming up with this agreement, so that's a good one. So I'll ask for a vote, Selectman Hull? Aye. Dr. Scroffus? Aye. And Candidacy was also an aye.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, I just wanted to thank personally and professionally Detective Richards, Patrolman Barrows, and Patrolman Ferrera, who was the negotiating party from the union, and also Town Administrator Mullen. It didn't happen as quick as we wanted, but I mean this, it really was a privilege to sit across the table from them, to learn more about what they do, what we expect of them, the responsibilities that we put on them, and I learned a lot. Hopefully they learned something from me, but who knows? But it really was a privilege, and I just wanted to thank them for that experience.
So I have one other thing, Mr. Chairman, if I could just quickly piggyback and echo the thoughts and sentiments of Dr. Zebra, just for the edification to the public. as well. Just in terms of the highlights of the contract, it's a 3-year contract, over the next 3 fiscal years. There are cost of living increases of 2%, 2% and 2.5%. The contract actually establishes with an existing member of the department, actually a community outreach officer. And our court officer position will actually be melded into that position as well. But also one of the things that the community outreach officer will be responsible for is addressing traffic needs. All of us, I think, understood it. In the union, local 306 also understood the priority that addressing our traffic needs are as a town. So we're very happy to report that. It also establishes a leave of absence structure, which is important in terms of expectations for both sides. And in terms of promotions in the department and within the union, the CBA also for the first time actually establishes the use of assessment centers, which is actually very good. It's actually considered the best practice. So we'll be doing that here in Dayton, and having a lot of, and having a process with a lot of rigor, that helps really define who we're promoting in the department as well. So again, I want to thank Chief McDonald, and I want to thank the members of the union, and the bargaining team for their work with us. So thank you.
I didn't thank you, I'm sorry, Chief, you were right there with me. Thank you.
We voted on this already, right?
We did.
Next item is the selectmen's reports and comments.
I actually
Selectmen
have
Hull?
two.
Selectmen Hull?
The first one, on Monday, September 27th, the Development and Industrial Commission met for the first time in 2 years. It was a very productive meeting and was attended by Town Administrator Mike Mullin. The primary focus of the group will be to do the following: work closely with the planning board and various town committees on work of an economic development plan and grant, which is being handled through Mr. Mullin's office. Work closely with the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce and the Southeast Regional Planning and Economic Development Committee and the Blister County Agricultural High School and County Extension Service to bring more resources to the town and to develop greater regional alliances to improve both economic and industrial development of Dayton. This commission will also be doing business outreach and recruiting of new businesses into the town. A major goal is to work with existing businesses in the town with a goal of building a stronger partnership between the town and our businesses. Public outreach is important, hear what their needs are. From my experiences working with Taunton, reaching out for the businesses to help the community. I know quite well the contributions made by G. Lopes to this town, and I'm sure there are other businesses out there who are willing to help us. I know, in having spoken to 2 developers in this town, they look forward to the opportunity of working with this committee, because they have said, what can we do to help the town besides pay taxes? There was some discussion about vacancies on the board. Because of the open meeting law, we actually have 3 vacancies, and we will have, for the next meeting, a recommendation which the board voted on Monday night, but it has to be approved by the board tonight. So I'll bring up that name at that time. Also at the meeting, they voted to expand the board from 5 to 7 members. The law allows for minimum 5 to a maximum of, I believe, well, actually,
13, I thought.
yes.
Okay.
And the board decided that a group that large would be very difficult to work. Mr. Mullin wonderful idea of adding a representative from the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce and Bristol County Agricultural School was well received by the members present at that meeting. And I have reached out to both, and they are going to be presenting a name for the board to approve to join the group. The Bristol County Agricultural School, and it's very, very important that you, all of us on the committee, that Dayton is growing. But there are many people in this community who express the concern and the need for preserving the integrity of the agricultural aspect of this town and the rural nature of this town. At our next meeting, scheduled for Monday, October 18th, at 7 p.m., we'll be inviting a representative of the Southeast Regional Planning and Economic Development to our meeting to discuss regional planning and possible regional partnerships with the town of Dayton. There is a lot of activity. Dayton is in the forefront of those discussions. Taunton, Fall River, Somerset are all looking for alliances and regional agreements with the town of Dayton. So we will be pursuing them. Working within open meeting law, I encourage, and we will be inviting members of various groups, open space, conservation, to attend our meetings. And we're going to spotlight them so we can have discussions. One of the primary focuses, in addition to that, it's an immediate focus, is Mr. Mullen is working on the completion of an economic development grant. Mr. Mullen, do you know when that's due?
The Community Compact Economic Development Planning Grant, the Community Compact Program is accepting them on a rolling basis, but we want to get that in as soon as possible.
And we will be working closely with Mr. Mullen and helping to develop that plan. So, in addition to informing and updating all the members of the board, we also will be working on a grant. Because one of the things that we talked about in Great Lake is that many communities have an economic and development person on board, regular staff position. And obviously that costs a great deal of money. So between the planning board and our group, in essence, we're kind of doing that. And we're going to try to work closely with the planning board so we can coordinate our efforts. The good thing is there won't be one person. There'll be a team that we're working together to bring economic and industrial growth to Dayton. Thank you, Dr. Zias.
Ms. Brady, before we put on the agenda for the next meeting, then the nomination of the person that you want for the other committee, as well as expanding the committee. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you as well, Selectman Hull. I wanted to just bring up one quick point regarding the Community Compact Cabinet. My understanding from when we applied back in 2017 and we were successful, the grant is actually a short paragraph. It's basically a summary for each best practice of why you're pursuing it. And so my suggestion would be, especially since I made one of the suggestions, since the selectmen did it last time, instead of leaving it to the town administrator, I'm happy to write one. If one of my colleagues is also wants to write the other one. But it was, and former Selectman Goulart remembers, Selectman Taylor, myself, and her, we all wrote our own. And we ran it by whoever needed to, but it was something that the Selectmen had did, so I'd like to keep that precedent on this and not outsource it, if it's okay with my colleagues, to the town administrator.
So if I could, just on the on the economic development plan itself,
Mhm.
there is information about the plan. Like in the proposed funding, that would come from a community compact grant, that would pay the services, that I am waiting for information, like from Serpent on, we should have it by the end of the week. And basically that information is what we can, actually use to actually, to be the paragraph.
Yeah, it's very short.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I am waiting on that part though,
Yeah, no worries.
in terms of the dollar.
You can, certainly that's something we want to work on.
Yep.
I think
Outside.
a paragraph development would be something together.
Yeah.
As a
It should be reviewed by your, if I may, by your commission, of course. You're going to literally be doing the economic development, but the commission should absolutely get a say in reviewing at the very least.
One of the things that was mentioned at the meeting when he died, when I asked the question of stumbling blocks and problems that they faced that led to this 2-year void, if you will, was that it was fragmented and it wasn't orchestrated in a way that all of the partners had a stake in this, because it's more than just the industrial development. I mentioned planning board, conservation, open space. And I want to bring the stakeholders to the table. And we have a great conductor. His name's Mike Mullen, and I'm sure he can help. And that's why we're gonna reach out and we're gonna spotlight those groups. And Mr. Mullen, I'll ask you to help in that invitation, invite them to the table.
Okay, a few more things. So I'm very delighted to hear that the Bristol County Agricultural High School will be represented on the commission. Part of the, well, let me just tell you a quick story. So when I wrote the Right to Farm bylaw in 2018 with Bill Napolitano from Surface, the very first entity that we approached, because we also, that's why we wanted to do Right to Farm. We care about preserving our agricultural heritage, not just maintaining the rural character, but we're an agrarian community, right? The Dayton strawberry, Dayton berries, sold at Faneuil Hall. The first people we went to, the first stakeholder was the Aggie School, and Superintendent Sands was a huge supporter of it and thought it would be great, not just for the Aggie School, but also for the town. So I'm very delighted to hear that. I think that's fantastic news. You had mentioned, Selectman Hall, hearing the needs of our businesses, and so this is in its infancy, and I don't much have an update other than trying to work out scheduling, but I have reached out to our congressman's office to coordinate a tour of Dayton, and I have spoke to you, and we wanted to incorporate Alice's, we wanted to incorporate the Spring Street Mills. There are a lot of centralized businesses in there with small business owners as well as employees. So I will certainly keep the board updated on that, okay? All right, and he gets to hear all of our complaints about what he could do to help make opening business in Dayton easier and sustain a business. And the last thing is, I have been fortunate enough to work on the MOG grant, which is a grant for accessibility in Dayton with our ADA coordinator, Jonathan Gale, as well as our Parks and Recreation Commission Chairman, Kevin Smith. We have made great progress, and what I wanted to tell the board about, and our town administrator, I'm sorry to get to tell you this earlier, is that we have had several sessions, and where we are at right now is we have started actually writing it, but we needed a couple meetings to figure out what the priorities were in terms of the funding. We can request up to $250,000 of state funding. So we finally got that list hashed out. Everyone is in agreement, and I'm happy to send that along to Town Administrator Mullen if he wishes to disseminate that to the board. And we also have cost figures as well. So I'm happy to send that along to the board as well.
And that has to be in by October 15th, is that?
Yes, and we'll be ahead of that. We'll probably, I would say, complete everything this week and, send it to our town administrator for his professional opinion and review, of course.
Any other selectmen reports?
Yes, Dayton Water District. Dayton Water District has had a meeting in August and in September, and I have a summary of those meetings. The new commission that's in place, and Superintendent Coonan, have really upgraded the maintenance of the equipment, the water district. And they're developing an actual maintenance plan rather than putting out fires, preventing fires. One of their goals is to start setting aside funds on a yearly basis to pay for water mixer maintenance, replacement, and also upgrades at the treatment plant. They're also proposing a flat tax rate. And they are going to be, I don't have the date of the public hearing to discuss this flat tax rate as well as a proposed water rate increase. There are many upgrades that need to be done. One of the major projects that begin in the spring, Main Street revitalization of water mains, water pipes, work at the treatment center is going to be an ongoing process. The Main Street revitalization project, which was originally planned to begin in the fall, is postponed to the spring. The water department will start working on this first, and it will be followed up by the DPW for repaving, curb cuts, sidewalk upgrades. They will have more details about an actual startup date once the survey is completed. If any of you live in the Main Street area, you probably have seen them going around with sextants, measuring and plotting out, and that's exactly why they're there. There is a concern and a need that needs to be helped with communication. They placed 1,000 meters with customers throughout the water district, and they were faulty. They sent out notices to these 1,000 customers that it was going to be necessary for a company, private company, they hire because they don't have enough staff to do it, to visit the homes to replace faulty batteries and indicators in the water meter indicator units. Of those 1,000 residents, only 500 have called to set up appointments. This must be completed by all 1,000 residents, or they are going to be getting estimated bills that probably won't be that accurate. And if you don't respond, Mr. Coonan has made it very clear to me that they do have the right to shut off people's water supply. So it is very important that people get in touch with the water district. If you receive a notice saying that they needed to upgrade their meters, please contact the water department to schedule an appointment. Thank you.
Any other selectmen reports?
Oh, I just wanted to ask, so I assume the water district reached out to those 1,000 people?
Oh, yes.
individually?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
A
all right.
couple times already.
Okay, and they're following up with phone calls? or-
Yes.
Okay, just making.
Just a little clarification, we never got that notice, but then we got a call to have it changed, so some people did not get the notice.
That's
They don't know.
Okay.
See, I did get a letter and that before.
We didn't, the historical society didn't address that, and, but they came yesterday. I think they came yesterday, I was for some of their opening.
Do it when your water shut off.
They did shut it off, new business, review, I just want to remind the board, that Cable has told us that at 10, we're gonna be out here by 10 o'clock. I know some of us want to stay later, but we really should move this along as quickly as possible. I'm not going to, have any board member discuss it, anything that's on the agenda. But I also, we're going to be voting on these different warrants as to what our recommendations, or some recommendations. And keep in mind, as we've done in the past, we will be meeting with FinCom. They may give us more information on some of these, and they'll come back with their recommendations, and we may be changing our positions on these.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
But I had called the office earlier today, and I was told that tonight we're just deciding what's on the warrant, and the next meeting we'll do our recommendation.
That was what we discussed at the last meeting, but that's fine with me, as long as
I'm okay with that, I think that would be great either way, but.
it's, we do have a time constraint, so. It was, speaking of all the articles, we want to speak on some of the articles, so I just mentioned the land that we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes.
Still on the warrant, but we did not vote to, the town to buy that land, so I don't know why it's still on the warrant.
So that was why I wanted to make the motion last time. To not have it.
So yeah, how I interpreted it, I actually wanted to make sure, it was actually the understanding of the board, because, so what was actually submitted as a placeholder article before the warrant closed was a placeholder based on, any votes at the last meeting. However, as the board knows, there weren't any votes on that issue at the last meeting, so there wasn't anything in the affirmative or negative. So it's on there now, but what I would actually recommend to the board, so by no vote, the Board of Selectmen does not want to pursue it, that chapter land article, which in the proposed draft is Article 13, that the board votes this evening to remove that from the special town meeting warrant. So you would vote to remove it, but because there wasn't an actual vote.
We did not vote to,
Yes.
so the town, all the way.
Do we do them all at once, Mr. Chair? How do you want to do it?
Well, I would like to address this Article 15.
Mr. Chairman, point of order,
Yes.
there was no vote taken, that's correct, but you also didn't vote not to exercise your option. That should have been the first vote. That would have ended the warrant article. So you really need, the first thing you need to do is determine whether or not you're gonna exercise your option. Because if you say, based on the discussion at the last meeting, you're not gonna support it, so you're not gonna exercise your option. But that land is tied up until either you make a decision or 100 and some odd days go by. So you need to do that.
Well, I did make a motion at the last meeting, and it was not seconded.
No, that was for the warrant article. You need to have an article that allows you to vote on whether or not you're gonna exercise your option, because the person who owns the land and wants to sell it has to know whether or not, because it's coming out of chapter, whether or not it's being released by the town. And I think your intent is release it. You don't wanna buy it,
Correct.
but you really gotta address the option issue.
You're saying we have to vote on that?
Yes,
before we-
so are we able to vote on that tonight, even though, I mean, the warrant article's on the agenda, but that voting on whether or not to vote is not. But I got from the meeting, I just assumed that from the last meeting, that we were not gonna purchase it. And I
So,
came to something where it's not fair to the person who wants to purchase it to have to wait any more than like.
And I understand that, so there were also, just my recommendation, there were open meeting law considerations, so based on that chapter, right of first refusal not being on this agenda, what I would recommend is having the right of first refusal question on the next Board of Selectmen's agenda. However, there is nothing in the meantime that would prevent the board from taking proposed Article 13 off of the proposed draft warrant, if the board's intent right now not to entertain
Yes.
you just can't actually, I wouldn't recommend you voting on the chapter question because it's actually not listed on the agenda, but by way of the warrant, in another fashion, you're essentially voting on,
But we still
That's
have to
the
vote
question.
at the next meeting.
Correct.
yes.
Are you entertaining motions, Mr. Chairman? Regarding
I guess in a second, so, we're, I thought it was resolved, I made the motion, it wasn't seconded, we should probably, what we should have done was have another motion,
Yeah,
not to,
that was
but
what
we
I
did,
wanted to do.
but it never happened.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Well, there wasn't a second.
well, my motion was different than maybe what your motion was going to be. But it's really not fair to the, unfortunately, to the potential purchaser of this land. that
I don't
now is
disagree.
doing, when is that next meeting, is it the 13th, October 13th, I think?
yes.
October 13th, I'll put this on the agenda to, I'll entertain a motion now to take it off the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Now I'll take a roll call vote, Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Segravas? Aye. And Campuchico is also an aye. So we're not voting, I guess, then, as on our recommendations. But we still need to go down
Yes.
and discuss each one, and you've got some figures up there. Sure.
Yeah, and I can zoom in a little more just for the edification of everyone. I'm also sharing my screen right now as well. And I'm just gonna move. I just wanna zoom in one. All right, so just for the edification, these are in any order. They're in an order, just how we arrange the financial spreadsheet. We actually, at this point, we want to, envision and entertain and plan for what, the articles that have been submitted by class, based on what we are generally expecting right now for free cash. Free cash, hasn't actually been submitted yet. We expect that to happen in the next week and a half or so. And that process is actively being worked on, by our new town accountant. But just in terms of what the board and the town are being asked to fund, by way of the warrant article submitted, there is there's at least one unpaid bill, and the unpaid bill article the language of it might actually need to be tweaked at this point to include more all-encompassing language. But we do have unpaid bills that we know of at this point from the ACO and the Council on Aging. We do have the request from the Dayton Trails for a feasibility study. Their proposed article, as you will note, actually asks for up to $40,000, which is potentially a $10,000 increase from what was deferred at the annual town meeting. At the building department at the special town meeting in FY21 last November, there was funding approved for an inspectional vehicle that was never procured due to the limitations of the wording of that article, but also due to the inventory issues that we've experienced globally. There was a joint request from the police and fire department to upgrade and enhance our repeater system, radios and equipment. We are aware at this point of some limitations with that equipment that is very important to the town and to the police and fire departments. I've been working very closely with the highway superintendent to plan to continue moving the Pleasant Street Bridge project forward. We have a placeholder right now for engineering funding. We have the highway superintendent and I have a meeting first thing tomorrow morning with an engineer. We expect and hope that figure will come down and hopefully fairly significantly. But that was initially quoted at $150,000, and as we know, that bridge needs some work. It's rated, in need of a lot of work in a superstructure replacement by the Mass Department of Transportation. There are a lot of public safety and environmental issues that we need to consider there. The next thing on the list here is an increase in the proposed increase in the health agent salary for the remainder of the fiscal year. And this is based on the meeting that was had by myself, Chairman Pacheco, the health agent and the chairman of the Board of Health. And the agreement reached was an increase in the hours worked by the health agent from 28 to 35 hours a week based on capacity issues, and then a $1.82 an hour increase, bringing his hourly rate up to $38.86, with also providing flexibility to do inspections and testing on Fridays as the schedule allows. The Board of Health has also submitted an article actually reestablishing a hazardous waste day, the funding of which was actually removed from the FY22 budget during the FinCom process. And there is an understanding from the FinCom that would be a priority at the special town meeting, as we typically do at every special town meeting as well. There's proposed funding for a fully equipped police vehicle. There is a place, there's an article that would fund the CBA agreement that we have just reached with Local 306 in the amount of $34,543. The police department has also submitted an article for body-worn cameras. I want to commend Lieutenant Cronin. Last month, he also submitted a state grant application for that funding as well. So we're looking forward to that. The town clerk and the town treasurer, based on the work that has been happening and completed by the building and highway department at town hall, they're asking for laptop docking stations and a printer for the counter area, so they can respond and print things out for residents, like at the counter right away. The town clerk, the town clerk is also, he submitted an article for $3,000 for new dog licensing software. He's also based on going from 2 precincts to 3. That also means 4 new ballot scanners. So there is, there's a typo in my recommendation.
Please.
Yes,
What's going on?
that is not true, of $26,000. There's a proposed article from the sewer department for health insurance reimbursement for the indirect costs that's been proposed. The treasurer has very diligently submitted an article to fund OPEB this year at $150,000. You can see that based on our schedule with our auditors and our OPEB consultant, it's strongly recommended that we fund a total of $125,000 every year. so you can see my recommendation there. For the 125, every year the assessing department has articles that would help fund the appraisals for our revals. There's proposed funding to actually enhance our cybersecurity insurance and to go to multi-factor authentication, which is also a best practice at this point. We also expect that number. We received one quote. To be honest with you, I wasn't happy with the cost of that quote. So we went out and we have actually solicited a second quote, which is in the final stages right now, but we believe that the second quote is going to be significantly lower than the 30,000, which is very good. There's an HVAC system replacement for a 3-ton HVAC system at Town Hall that would serve the front of the building on the main level. There's proposed 30,000 in proposed funding to continue the planning and permitting for the Dayton Elementary, Dayton Middle School driveway, like a maintenance facility permitting. There is almost $380,000 to fund the police station bond out of free cash, so that doesn't have to hit the tax rolls, which has always been a priority for the last few years for the town. There is a proposed $14,000 expense, which would actually come from the cable peg access fund to fund our 2 mini split systems in the lower level cable office at Town Hall to help actually keep their equipment cool, more climate controlled as well. Right now, we have placeholders of $200,000 transfer to capital stabilization, $150,000 transfer to stabilization. We had a placeholder, as we discussed, for the William Street chapter land, which you can see actually didn't even enter into my totals. And then we have the boom mower for the new tractor that the annual town meeting approved as well. So in total expenses, we have $1.7 million. In free cash class at this point, I'm recommending, and this is actually very fluid at this point, I'm recommending funding $1,226,675 of that. However, of the 1.2 million, I just want to note that funding the police bond so it doesn't hit the tax rate, funding the OPEB, funding both sets of stabilization accounts for almost $820,000 of that $1.2 million. Of the $1.7 million, I'm proposing at this point that $122,600 roughly be incorporated into raise and appropriate because they're operational costs, and then an additional $44,000 of the $1.7 million be funded through dedicated revenues. So I just wanted to provide that overview at the outset, as we're envisioning what our potential free cash really could be right now. This $1.2 million in funding is pretty conservative. If we have to, I think going back and looking at the Pleasant Street engineering, at the cyber insurance enhancements, and maybe at the those issues. In my opinion, some of the issues where we might have some room. but it's also extremely important that we continue the town's tradition of the free cash holdback as well. We've always tried to hold back at least $300,000, and I want to make sure we are doing that and planning for that at this point as well. So these are really all the funding articles. And you'll note in the warrant, there are non-funding and planning board articles as well, but just relating to the funding side, I just actually thought it would be helpful to provide the context of where we could be at as well.
Is it okay to discuss some articles? And I have one I have a big concern with.
Yes.
Sure. Today, I received an email from the superintendent of schools, Dr. Azar, of the results of the meeting that was conducted last night by the school committee. And at that meeting, with the blessing of the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School Committee, Dr. Azar stated the following: the school district would not be in support of this project due to the exorbitant cost. With that in mind, I asked why Article 15 should remain on the warrant, to see if the town will vote to raise, to appropriate, or transfer from available funds an amount not to exceed $30,000 for planning and permitting costs to redesign the driveway, traffic pattern, and add a maintenance facility at Dayton Elementary School and the Dayton Middle School. If the school district, if the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School Committee can't support it, why should the town? And I ask that this article be stricken from the warrant.
I also got an email. My understanding though, Selectmen Paul, was there wasn't, I don't know how to say this. They had different ideas about what the actual project should be. I don't think they had concerns about the cost to get the project going, which is what Article 15 is. So can we get clarity on that? You got the email as well, Mr. Administrator. Is that your understanding? What was your understanding?
So yeah, so it was, like in my opinion, Dr. Azar's email that he sent earlier this afternoon didn't even really address what is being proposed in Article, I think 15 is it? I met with Dr. Azar last week. I gave him an update, on the project based on funding that was approved at the November town meeting last year to work on a redesign and to start permanent. As the board was updated on August 11, that process has moved forward, and the building commission is here tonight to discuss it as well. That process has moved forward, but the permanent phase of the project to get it shovel ready is now being anticipated to cost more. In the update to Dr. Azar, I did mention to him that the total cost, the construction cost for the project was is estimated at about 1.5 million. Unfortunately, that is a number that I think he centered it on, and he failed to understand that before we get to actually a conversation about how we would fund the construction costs, whether to safe roads, a safe routes to school grant, or any other funding opportunities, we have to have the funding in place to do it. So all Article 15 is proposing is not to fund the $1.5 million, but to fund an additional $30 to ensure that if our funding opportunities identified for the construction, that we have the planning in place to actually move forward with that at some point.
how do we spend $30,000 on a project that we don't even have a plan for?
It would be to come up with the plan, the final plan and permitting.
But at this point in time, I'll read the email. The reconfiguration of the Dayton campus was discussed. And the price for the project, as Mr. Mullin shared, reached $1.5 million due to wetlands considerations. So there's some concerns there as well. I mentioned this figure at last night's school committee meeting, and there was a consensus that the school district would not be in support of this project due to exorbitant costs. However, we are about to revisit a building study committee through the school district that could, the word could, encompass campus configurations and incorporate the recent discussion into the building study committee. So we're gonna spend $30,000 for something, we don't know that the uncertainty that they will support it, or when this will come to fruition.
We'll let Mr. Aguirre speak to this.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name's Aguirre, building official. I'm not surprised the school department didn't jump at the chance of funding it. It's a lot of money. I don't anticipate the taxpayers will either. This project was brought to the town of Dayton by the school department. There's an issue on the campus with the configuration of the traffic. It actually is creating some public safety risks. They are doing yeoman's work to try to alleviate that in the meantime. So this was brought to the town. We embraced it. We realized that it's something we needed to do. The taxpayers supported $85,000 for the permitting, design, and all of the related costs associated with drawing a plan, coming up with a design plan. Through the discovery process, there was wetlands that were found in the impact area that escalated the cost by this $30,000. So with $105,000, which is, I think that's a pretty accurate figure, we'll have a shovel-ready project with a set of plans that we can then go after funding sources. Grants opportunities are all around us. The problem with Dayton is we never have a set of plans when a grant arises to say, here, we're ready to do this. I think it's time that Dayton starts looking at these projects through the capital planning committee, identifies projects, funds the engineering, and then when the grant opportunity comes up, we don't have to look at the taxpayers to pay for it. We can go for the grants. But without the set of plans, you cannot do that.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I just want to re-emphasize how important it is that this project be partially funded, at least, by a grant. We are encountering, it sounds like, the same issue with this project that we're encountering with the sewer project, the sewer extension project. We are not eligible for grants because we're not shovel ready. These grants come with strings and they come with deadlines. So if you can't show the state or whoever is the granting agency that you can complete the project by a certain amount of time, i.e. essentially the return on investment, they won't grant it to you. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Ms. Aguirre, Dr. Z, I agree with your logic. But what I find extremely troubling, and it's not a lack of leadership, is that the school department doesn't agree and follow your logic. And quite honestly, that's the only concern that I have. Because in one sense, I agree with you, I agree with Dr. Z. But are we going to force a project upon them, which at this time they can't seem to want to buy into? And it would be a lot easier to sell to the public that will be voting on November 1st if all the shareholders were on the same page.
We have it on the same page. The school department has been.
No, I mean, we include them.
I've included them in every discussion.
No, I'm not saying that you didn't, but I'm saying you have reached out to them. You've spoken eloquently tonight, how you feel, and I agree with you, how you feel. What frustrates me is they didn't buy into it, and it's going to benefit them.
Mayor, just for the record, Until we just got that email, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we had never heard about these concerns.
That's.
When I read that email, I nearly fell out of my chair.
Me too.
These were the same individuals that were at the site visit with us before anything was ever put to paper. Do you know what everyone said at that meeting? This is a great idea, thank you for taking the lead. So when I got the email that there are all these concerns, I'm thinking, that's great, where were you last year when we had our first meeting?
I didn't get this email today, we wouldn't be having this discussion, because I was not in support.
You know, I was asked to grab a task, Superintendent Ferry and I grabbed it by the bullhorns, we included everyone in the process. The school department even told us some of their concerns. They wanted us to try to modify the original concept to work with their plans, we did all that. All that discovery was done. I can't speak for Dr. Azar, he obviously drafted the email, and Press said, I can tell you that I feel the same way Selectman Zagrakis does. It's a surprise to me as well. I'm wondering if it's, and I'm certainly not speaking for Dr. Azar, I'm wondering if it was just the shell shock of the cost that may have sparked him to write that email. And that may be the case, that's fine. But, you know, this project is already we're over a year into it already. And the problem still exists. The other thing that we haven't brought up yet is Bristol Aggie has increased their enrollment by over 200 students. That hasn't kicked in its entirety yet. So when that happens, what's going to happen to the traffic at that point? We're already seeing what happens at that intersection now. So if we do nothing, it's only going to get worse. Thank you.
Mr. Ferry?
I have not seen an email, but based on the way you read it, I'm wondering if Mr. Azar's comment to reference it was not a viable project for the school district's budget versus the town budget, because it's being town property, it would be up burden on us anyways. Maybe that's the difference.
Could be.
It's like the marketers, we had it.
Right, we had to do models, they were on us,
Other people
not
say
the school
they paid
district.
for it, but the town paid for it.
That might be the difference that we're communicating with right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone too, the process and the road that we're gonna have to travel down to get this
Dr.
going,
Azar is
that's great, that's fabulous, I'm glad he's joining us. The road is gonna be a long road, it has to go to the Army Corps of Engineers, because if you disturb a certain number, and please don't, I don't know the number, but if you just. It triggers the Army Corps of Engineers, I mean, it will take a long time. We can figure out all the bumps in the road together, but we have to get the project going. It's been a year, so like I said, I want to thank you for taking the initiative, and I'll absolutely be supporting this tonight.
And also, it was residents that thought this.
It was residents.
I had concern about the safety of the children, which should be our top priority.
And for the record, I'm working from home, so normally I would be in Boston, but I'm not, so I drove by the school on a random weekday, and the traffic was down Center Street, it was on Somerset, I mean, there was traffic everywhere. It's a problem, it really is a problem. We have teachers who have and I love them, right? Teachers are great. We have teachers doing traffic, like at the school, like it makes no sense, the system that is going on, so we need to help them, and that's how this project came forth, and that's why we're here tonight.
So Dr. Azar, I'm sure you missed a lot of our conversation, but we're discussing the email that you sent to all of us this afternoon. Do you want to comment on that email?
Sure. I guess timing is everything in life. I think, unfortunately, we're spread so thin, all of us trying to get so many different things done. So, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on that point. Town Administrator Mullen was gracious enough to reach out to us to start a dialogue between the school district and Dayton, which we have done in the past, as all of you know. And Mike, if you don't mind me calling you Mike.
That's fine.
We shared some insight about some of the issues that are that we're looking at. And one of those things that came up was that when we were going through the process of trying to look at an exit strategy for the Dayton campus, since the Dayton Middle School is somewhat landlocked, And many of you know that the Beckwith Middle School is in a similar situation. That's landlocked as well. That we developed, and we were working with the town. I just heard some of what Brett was saying. He's right. Yeah, it's been an ongoing discussion. Mr. Aguiar, Jim, has been with us every step of the way, along the way. But what we didn't realize, what Mike shared with us, was that if that price tag of $1.5 million is correct, I think what we were looking at was that we thought that was quite an expensive project, due to the fact that I mean, it's not perfect, but there are some concerns, obviously, with the traffic flow. But it's improved greatly over the years. Both Lynn Desert and Ashley Fullen and Richard Wheeler and Amy Younger, they've done a remarkable job of getting kids in and out of that campus area. But when we initially met, quite frankly, the $1.5 million kind of put a damper on a few things. That's a large portion, of money to create an exit strategy. And we all know whenever you deal with wetlands, that's the unknown. It is what it is. And quite frankly, this is not just the Dr. Azar thing. I did present it to my school committee last night. And the consensus last night was that they felt, and based upon input that I've had since the beginning of the school year, several school committee members actually drop off and pick up their children as well. That it's inconvenient at times, time-wise, but the bottom line, as you all know, is that if everyone decided to put their kids on a bus, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But that's not the case. That's not the case, and it hasn't been the case for years. But with COVID-19, we have noticed an uptick of students being dropped off and picked up due to the fact that parents do not want their kids riding on a bus masked for could be upwards of an hour. No more than an hour. That's what our policy states. So we've seen an uptick of that going forward. So with $1.5 million project, unless, and what I shared with Mike, I think Monday, but these days just all seem to be one now. Unless there's an egregious security issue, based upon Chief McDonald and Chief McGee's input, we suggested, it's simply a suggestion, that we are going to be looking at a building committee to review where the building committee left off because of COVID back in 2020 of March, Friday the 13th. We put that on hold, and it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years since we were able to, see our way clear of providing an education for the kids first, and then looking at what we need to do, as far as the building situation is concerned in the district, not just in Dayton. There are some concerns throughout the district. So we commissioned NESDEC, an outside group, an organization that specializes in looking at enrollment trends. We have a 135-page document that would be the blueprint for this building committee to look at. If you recall, Dayton, you folks did an admirable job trying to put a building committee together. And then the outcome of that was simply a charge that we needed to do it district-wide within the schools. We tried to do that, and unfortunately, we had some bumps in the road, some large bumps in the road. But we have a new business manager, and we anticipate in November that we'll have that building committee back on track with input from both towns. And it would be a district-wide look at enrollment figures and such. You folks did just a remarkable job of getting the modulars up and running for us at the Dayton Elementary School. And had you not done that, could you only imagine what predicament we would be in right now, even more so. So kudos to you folks for doing that, for agreeing to put up money for that as well. I mean, there's no question about that piece, and what you folks do and have done for the district. I've always been an advocate of the Dayton folks and what you put forward. So that what we thought would make sense would be to dovetail into that building committee what the campus looks like as well, as far as the traffic flow, the exit strategy, to have a long range plan to do that. It was simply to give you folks an opportunity to take pause and say, okay, the $1.5 million project, is this something that we need to move forward on? Or is this something that the schools feel as though they can deal with, the parents deal with it? And quite frankly, people can't complain about the inconvenience about traffic flow or waiting or whatever, because what we tell folks and we tell our staff is remind parents, you can have the kid take a bus. So we don't want to hear people complaining about the traffic flow, because that's part and parcel to not putting your kid on a bus. But we understand that you can't enforce putting kids on the bus, so we have to work within what we need. So I appreciate the latitude here and the flexibility of giving me a chance to share with you some of those thoughts. And then in the email, you also saw the piece about the parking lot. So if you had a chance, I don't know if you had a chance this evening to take a look at the the Center Street entrance. That was, we had people parking on both sides of that entranceway, and that just creates more of havoc. And we see that in the morning, particularly buses trying to turn a right-hand turn into the entrance. And you folks stepped up a few years ago and bought that property, and there was some plans of putting a parking lot and widening the entrance to make it a two-way possibly. So there are some things that just simply under consideration. What you folks decide to do, ultimately we'll be supportive and we'll do what we need to do to keep kids safe. And that's the mantra of what Dayton municipality has done for us as well. And we just appreciate everything you folks are doing, but we also wanted to give you a chance to take pause. And maybe the $1.5 million is a hefty price tag, and I'm just thinking that through the school committee last night, just to give some pause to think about it. That's all. So I thank you. I'll stay on as well for questions or anything like that, and any future discussions that we need to have. So thank you, Chair Pacheco.
Thank you. Just so we don't go down this rabbit hole, we're voting on whether or not to put these warrants before the townspeople. We're not voting tonight whether or not we support these warrants. So we're just asking whether or not we want these warrant articles. This particular one, I support, and I want it to be I want the taxpayers, the residents, to make a decision whether or not we're going to spend this money. And I don't think we should be making that decision. I remember in 2 or 3 meetings, as well as school committee meetings, when residents from Dayton were concerned about their children, the whole parking situation, dropping kids off or whatever. Parents have the right to bring the kids to school. They don't have to use the bus. It's nice if everybody uses the bus, but not every parent does that. So we have to deal with it. What I think is a very dangerous situation. So that's like about.
We vote, not tonight, but at town meeting, is it a 2/3 vote of the town, or is it a majority vote?
I believe this is going to be a majority. This is a bylaw, so this will be a majority. So are there any warrant articles that we do not want to go forward? I read all the articles, I'm sure everybody has. I support most, if not all. And but do we want these warrants to go before the residents?
I have a couple of questions. They're not long questions, but about different articles.
Sure. Just keep in mind.
Yes, no, I know.
At the time, we have a lot more to do.
I'll be very brief, and it's just really, honestly, most of them require yes, no answers. So for the police department article, body worn cameras, and I apologize, I was in that meeting, but I forgot the answer, so I just want to ask. That sum, the proposed cost, could potentially be reimbursed or partially reimbursed by a grant.
Yes, it can be funded by a grant, yes.
Okay. Regarding the town clerk, treasurer, docking stations, and printer for counter,
Yes.
I'm gonna support it, because I don't think they've requested if they didn't need it, but I do wanna look at the specifics, because I've had to buy docking stations, and they're literally like $50 each, and the printers aren't that expensive either, so. I
The
was-
laptops as well.
Oh, okay, well, that's different, okay, so it's a laptop plus a, well, that should be worded different. Town clerk, dog licensing fee software, what is that? I thought we already had software, and it was already on an iPad that was being used
So-
by the ACO.
It's also not for the ECO, but for the town clerk.
Okay, because it's to collect these, okay.
As I understand, there is a current software, he wants to enhance it,
Okay.
so he's proposing a new set of software.
Awesome, I support that. That'll be it for now. I'll spare you.
So I will entertain a motion to vote on the warrants to present to the residents.
So you're gonna do them as one, as a package?
Yes, yes, but we've taken out Article 13,
Already.
so that's when, obviously, if there's any other articles that we don't want to go forward, we can vote on that now.
Mhm.
Other than that, we can just vote to place all these articles on warrant.
Regarding the, I'm gonna make a motion if you're accepting it, Mr.
Second.
Chairman. Before I do, Mr. Mullen, transfer to stabilization.
Yes.
The request is 200,000, but only 150,000? I'm confused. Can you explain what that is? Why the numbers don't match?
From the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
Okay, so, on the spreadsheet, and I've already gone through because, I mean, I'm mindful of generally how much our free cash might be. And so to try to actually get to a number, where we would have a good holdback, I actually, I started this process, with 200 in each. But at this point for stabilization, I'm thinking recommending at this point based on what we know, is I transfer to stabilization at 150, but keeping, because we're trying to build up a funding source, for the capital projects we have, keeping the capital stabilization, at what we had initially proposed. Of 200 grand. So yeah, but I did decrease by $50,000, the proposed transfer to stabilization, but that's just my thought, and that's, ultimately, it's gonna come from the board and from the FinCom.
Okay, I still entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I was gonna ask another question, but I won't. Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve, I'll ask Mike after. I motion that we approve, approve addition of all presented proposed articles for the special town meeting warrant, except for the previously removed Article 13, and that each article after 13 be renumbered accordingly.
Is there a second?
I say,
Any further discussion?
I just want to remind everyone, these are not our recommendations, it's just like saying everyone else can decide, so we'll hash it out next.
We're voting to have these go before the residents. We haven't made our recommendations, we'll do it at the next meeting. It'll be printed, whenever these warrants are printed up, it'll be printed on what the board of selectmen's recommendations are.
Thank you.
We'll call for a vote, Selectman Hull,
no,
Selectman Bogakis,
Aye.
and Member Chico's on that. The next, other new business is the non-union contract, police lieutenant. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we ratify the non-union contract with between the town of Dayton and the Dayton Police Lieutenant, Mr. Cronin, as presented this evening.
Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Selectman Hull? Selectman Bogakis?
Aye.
Member Chico is also an aye.
Congratulations, sir.
thank you.
Are you waiting?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We'll send you a text next time.
Next item is a memorandum of understanding with Dayton Town Clerical Library and Council on Union Public Employees Local Union 272 of the Laborers International Union.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we ratify the memorandum of understanding between the town of Dayton and Dayton Town Clerical, Library, and Council on Aging Public Employees Local Union 272 of the Laborers in the National Union of North America, as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion? None, I'll ask for a vote, Selectman Hull? Aye. Selectman Sparkus?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The next item is review, discuss, and action proposed changes to the business guide. I would like to know what the changes are.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I want to say at the beginning of June, the update process to the business guide started together with the Cannabis Advisory Board. And what we identified at that point is we had a flow chart and the outline of a process in the business guide for a marijuana dispensary. We didn't have anything that contemplated a cultivation facility. And in terms of really making sure we were transparent and had all the information out there, so any proposed facilities that we're looking at Dayton had the ability and the expectations of really what we expected. We wanted to provide that and offer that in the business guide as well. In addition to that, the Cannabis Control Commission, since the business guide was finalized only last year, they changed their regulation where their process originally started with a letter of non-opposition. So they've updated their regulations to take out the whole letter of non-opposition process and to start the process with the HCA process before the Board of Selectmen. So working with the Cannabis Advisory Board or Committee, we came up with we made updates to both the R&D flow chart on page 32 and the cultivation process flow chart on page 33. In doing so, we also reinforced the expectation that in order for an applicant to start moving through the process, we also wanted the applicant really to check the zoning of the land or the building or the property that they were considering really doing something in. That was really the first part we wanted to have that expectation out there, because if the underlying zoning is not in conformance, there are other things that a proposed applicant will need to do. So we did that. We came up with an updated flow chart plan based on feedback from the Cannabis Advisory Board and actually other entities who participated in the process. And then on pages 29 through 31, we updated the language in the process as well and added cultivation in there as well. And since we have this thing open, there were requests made by the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce to update their contact information. They had a change in executive director, and we've had a change in town administrator since the guide was approved. So we updated that and also changed the guide to reflect the new membership of the Board of Selectmen as well. I think I covered it.
Does the board have any questions?
Yes, so I consider this my baby because I wrote it and I take it very seriously, and I don't mean this in a rude way.
No.
But when you add text, it has to match the rest of the document. So
Yeah.
you can just justify the text at the bottom of the flow chart. I greatly appreciate that.
Justify the text. I'm a big justifying the text fan as well, so I will absolutely do that.
And one other thing, just for the future of the document, if I would like it, when you're up and running, the Development and Industrial Commission, if there's anything that, because when Mallory and I, when Mrs. Aaronstein and I wrote that, that commission was not active. Once they're active, I would like it if they could review the document and maybe give us any changes or edits or
Oh,
things that they may want to see.
We were planning to review it, but to change it, we'll have a discussion. I don't know how we'll do it with the open meeting law, but we would like to invite the author to be present for those discussions. Because for us to have a discussion without knowing the background, lies waiting for Christmas. And I'm sure there will be questions that only you will be able to answer. Well, wait until you go on board this document.
So should we not vote on it tonight then, since we're gonna ask for a review?
It may take a while for them to do it. We could at least have this on the website, like in an updated form, because the old version, you know, it shows a picture of Mrs. Aronson, and she's not even here, so if someone tried to, you know, contact that, they're not gonna get a response, so. I'm okay with it being approved tonight.
Yes.
I fully expect it's a living document that's gonna change.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead. But you're talking about the bottom of page 33, correct?
The text is just too much.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, I'm right with you.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the proposed edits to the business guide as presented this evening by our town administrator.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, I just want to thank you for the work on this, and thank you for getting the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board back up and running to review changes as well. Very appreciated.
I call for a vote, Selectman Outlay.
Aye.
Dr. Silgaris.
Aye.
And Ken Pacheco is also. Next agenda item is the, review, discuss and act on chapter 6180, right, first refusal or amendment to Fremont Street. James E. Campbell, trustee of JDC, nominee trust, map 8, lot 27. Are you entertaining a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen waive their right of first refusal for the property 903 Tremont Street, map 8, lot 27, James E. Cabral, trustee of the JEC nominating trust under chapter 61.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Silgaris?
Aye.
Ken Pacheco also is an aye. Update, next item is update on elderly tax extension as, Mr. Hull. We have a tax exemption for seniors who fit into a certain category. It was originally proposed way back in 2007, that was $500. We also came across a work program, seniors could work. We had discussion with the last department head meeting. Doesn't seem like that may be so feasible. So I had asked that we increase the tax exemption for seniors who qualify to $750, and apparently, unbeknownst to me, and I suspect the public, it's going to cost a little bit increase for that $500, and it's probably around, I think it's $743.
Yes.
So that's it's closer to $750. So I asked that originally that this be a warrant article, but I don't see a need for it now since it's already at $743. We may want at the annual town meeting in June to increase it to $1,000 if we want to.
Why can't we increase it now? Maybe I missed something.
Oh, no, I asked,
It's already been increased. Yeah.
it's going to cost a living apparently. The public doesn't know, because I don't know, because I assisted someone back in January to try to get the $500, nobody told me it was any higher than that.
Yeah.
But apparently it's $743, so I don't think it needs to go before the town to increase it to $700, but we may want to consider, and it's the board's decision to increase it to $1,000 at the annual town.
So, may I make a statement? So, you know, obviously we need, who knows what, we've always been in a good financial state, so I'm not saying this in that way, but we don't know what we may encounter, like we all didn't predict the pandemic, right? But I'm willing to support that going on a warrant, certainly for consideration, not in any more town meeting from the residents. And they can decide what they want, but
What I did discuss it in the last, department meeting in the second session, the last department meeting, we did ask, about the chairman of the tax assessors, how much of an impact this would have on our taxes, and it would be minimal, correct? So,
I heard some good things about our new assessor. And as part of the sales pitch, I would hope at the town meeting in the spring, she has projections, and a nice presentation to help sell the $1,000 increase. I think at this time, we're going to be motioning for $750, is that correct? Or will
no,
We don't need to, it's already
it's 7:43 now, so it had to go before the town residents anyway.
we don't have time to put it on this one?
No, it's just we closed, it closed up. But just in regard to that report, I believe this is good, you said, the chairperson of the tax assessors board will be presenting the report at the annual time.
And whoever the chairman is, if that person doesn't do it, I will.
Perfect. You answer all my tough questions. But, Mrs. Tavares isn't here, but they're having that whole presentation next week about how we can make it easier or try to make it easier for seniors to stay in their homes. You know, this, off the top of my head, is one thing that we could do to help trim around the edges when it's safe, you know, financially to do so. So I look forward to having us see on the future one.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think one of the things we can do, actually in the meantime as a town, through the website, through social media as well, to really make sure we're getting this information that exists already in the form for seniors exempting like $743. Let everyone know that that opportunity exists now. In processes, and I really want to thank Lisa. Actually Lisa Tatro, in the assessor's office as well, who came up with this one pager, and really broke everything down for us really to be able to share with our residents too. So
I know we're pressed for time, so can you give me a short elevator pitch on the cons of the senior tax work-off program? I was not in that discussion, so I'm just
Well,
curious.
yeah, it's not, I don't think it's that much of a benefit for those that do work, because whatever if they work, say we set a limit of $1,000, minimum wage, 12 hours, whatever it is, 12 hours or something, they would end up paying, they have to come to this income, they would end up paying, my understanding is federal taxes, FICA, Medicare, all of that, so they don't get the credit of $1,000, they get whatever the balance is, and all those taxes, that even though they're working, is liability issues, they workman comp issues,
potential union issues.
Confidentiality issues, and it sounds like a great, and there was, Selectmen Hull, we got this notice, all of us got the notice, but Selectmen Hull wanted to bring it to our attention. And it did sound like a worthwhile, I spoke, that I thought maybe we can increase the tax exemption, it might be a better route to go. I didn't realize we're so close to the 750, I would have asked for 1,000 at this special town meeting, but we can do it again. Get the support of the colleagues. I think it's worthwhile, something for us to do for the seniors so they can stay in a great town.
Well, before you move on, I want to tell you, thank you. You have, since you've been on the board, been a big advocate for seniors. You started, it's not selfish. Me too. But in all seriousness, you were the one who brought the conversation about the senior tax work-off program to the forefront. You're the one who always talks about keeping seniors in their homes, making things maybe a little bit more affordable for them.
And I joked about, because I'm a senior, but I would not benefit from this.
Sure. We'll get back to you on the fine print on this.
But there are certain criteria, this income and assets that people have to have, so. The house doesn't count as an asset. It's a good, I think it's a good program. And it was actually former Selectman Tom Hines not sure if you were on the board, but I brought it back maybe 2007 before the town to get the $500. Next, agenda item is the Dayton Community Garden supply donations. Is that all? Yes, okay, so we received a letter, agreeing Board of Selectmen. I would like to apologize for being unable to attend the upcoming meeting. I have several things going on at night that will not allow me to attend because she's very busy as well. The James Gray Community Garden has come a long way this year. We were able to get approval from the Agricultural Commission to purchase materials needed to get the garden going. We have purchased a lumber along with the stain and frost-proof hydrant for the garden. We have also recently acquired strong light for the garden beds to help aid the soil and protect from growing weeds. Mr. Ferry has been kind enough to get the frost-proof hydrant installed, start the displacement effects for the garden as well. The lumber for the garden beds is currently being stored at the Highway Department. We will begin staining the lumber and assembling the beds on Saturday, October 16th. The Troop 45 and 45G committee is working on a schedule for the volunteers to sign up for the upcoming date. I anticipate the setup and assembly of the garden to not take more than 2 to 3 weekend days. We should have it all set for the upcoming garden season by the end of November. Additionally, exciting news is that Bristol Women has offered to build a shed for the garden. The shed will be roughly 12 by 16. It's currently being worked on by the students. We noticed that where the garden is now is framing where they're going to locate it is a great place. Tonight, I would like to ask for approval of the following donations for the town site for the James Gray Garden. 60 yards of compost donated by National Town Following. A variety of seeds that will be donated by community members. We are working on compiling a complete list of seeds for donations. We would also like to ask that we have approval for Valley and Lucho to start set seeds in order for a greenhouse to start this coming January, February to start planting in early spring. We did have a request to 6 yards of manure to be donated as well, but due to extenuating circumstances, we may not be able to provide that donation. We are still on the lookout for the manure donation. This is a very exciting time for the garden project. I look forward to continuing to work with our local boards, commissions, and the project. Please feel free to reach out to myself and Mrs. Tricio if you have any questions or concerns. We both look forward to meeting with you all in person very soon. Thank you, gentlemen, to the lot. Tanya. Tricio.
I have a question, it's a budgetary question. You're asking us for approval for expenses, but does the Agricultural Commission, do they have a budget?
Well, I don't think they're asking for expansion, they're asking for us to
Accept the donation.
accept the donation. We have to. We've already had, the Agricultural Commission has already, and your liaison person for the Agricultural Commission has already agreed to purchase the lumber. We have purchased it and have stored it, soon to be staying in the race fest. They have approved the funding for that. So we're just going to be voting tonight on the accepting donations from different individuals that are mentioned in this letter.
To the town.
To the town.
Yeah, the agricultural, I see where your question is coming from now. The Agricultural Commission doesn't have the authority, only the Board of Selectmen has the authority to accept donations to the town. So that's why the expenditures go through them and their small budget for the garden supplies, but the donations always have to come to us.
Now, Jenna and Tanya, are they part of the Agricultural Commission?
No, they're not.
So they're just private citizens?
Private citizens who volunteer, maybe
There's a formal name
We
there.
voted, Mrs. Emerson was like real good about like making sure there was a plan. We authorized them, the board, authorized them unanimously to be custodians of the James Briggs Community Garden. And so that authorizes them to do the work. But anytime there's a donation or an expense, it does need to go through either us or donation or them and for an expense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then they do a courtesy thing where they keep us in the loop. May I make a suggestion on this? And I'm happy to write the very short letter, but anyone who donates supplies like the fill-ins of Teascape and Dayton, I think we should write them a letter thanking them. I think that's really I mean, 6 yards is no small thing, so just to highlight that we are appreciative.
Just for some clarification, they're calling it the James Briggs Community Garden. It's not technically, a community garden, it's not like you see that people anywhere in town can go in there and have their little plot or whatever. This is, it's not like they're gonna raise the vegetables and they're gonna donate it to the food bank as well as the residents of Lincoln Village.
And to that part, because it is a partnership with the Lions, the Agricultural Commission, we've done this under Selectmen's report, is looking into, there is a grant through the USDA. So we are looking into see if we're eligible, that could partially help to fund maybe some of this, some of the expenses. So more to come on that.
So I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept with thanks and appreciation the donations outlined in Mrs. Montero Barr's, letter as presented this evening.
I second.
Any discussion?
And that we follow up with letters of thanks to the donors.
Second.
Selectman County vote.
Aye.
Selectman Sobrakis. And Timothy Joe is also on that. We do discuss that in surplus for disposal. We have several requests. Fire department wants to declare a surplus to 2012 Burmac message boards. Board of Selectmen had 1 CAN calculator, 1 laptop, 7 computer monitors, 10 computer keyboards, 12 computer towers. Is there anything else on that list?
That's all I see, Mr. Chairman.
So I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the disposal of the mentioned items on the agenda this evening for surplus as requested.
I second.
Any discussion? If not, Selectman Conlon, Selectman Sobrakis.
Aye.
Tim also aye. Correspondence. We received a letter from Chief McDonald, Police Department. Board of Selectmen earlier today received an email from one of our new hires, Nima Washburn, who was expected to start the Plymouth Academy in September this year. After sitting down and speaking with Sergeant Cronin earlier this week, she came to the decision to tender her resignation. She currently moved from Vermont at the beginning of the year and since that time developed other ideas of a career path. The decision was mature, well thought out, and sincere, and we wish her nothing but the best in the future and whenever she decides to pursue. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Nima Washburn.
Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Excuse me. How do you vote, Selectman? Aye. Dr. Z, and Timothy was also aye. On September 27th, Board of Selectmen in Town Administrator received a letter from Harold Horvath, Chairman of the Board of Assessors. Due to complications with Blister County retirement, please accept this letter as notice of my retirement from the Board of Assessors effective September 29th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we accept the letter of resignation from Mrs. Carol Beauregard with thanks and appreciation for her decades of public service.
I second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Sobrakis? There were no acknowledgements, minutes.
So if I put on, if I put on that, like I just want to, actually make sure the board saw the follow-up letter from the other 2 members of the Board of Assessors and asking that that we post and that the Board of Selectmen post and try to fill as soon as possible that the position. We do have the upcoming tax rate setting process upcoming. So yeah, that is something we want to move forward with very expeditiously.
May I ask the question? So we need to appoint someone to fill the remainder of the term through to the next annual town election?
Yes.
So then, okay.
Just under discussion. It is important that the Board of Assessors have 2 members that are certified so they can assess the tax rate. Keep that in mind, with the timeliness of filling this position as well as posting.
May I ask the question? I can ask you, okay, Assessor Goulart, are you and Mr. Easterday certified?
No, I am, and Mrs. Beauregard is. He has not taken the training. There are 2 modules you must complete, 1 and 4. There are 10 in total, but in order to be able to set a tax rate, you need a majority of the board, and they both must be certified, so I do have certification.
Okay.
But with her leaving the board, it's imperative that we get that position filled, hopefully by a certified person. So that after this special town meeting and the dust settles, we can meet with the board of selectmen to set the tax rates. The chapter and verse mentioned in that covers how the vacancy would be filled, and it's the 2 remaining board of assessors and the board of selectmen.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to post that position requiring that the candidates be certified?
I don't think that.
Yeah.
No, because it's like, and you can go run for it and not be certified. Right? Am I wrong?
No, you're right,
See, my recommendation, correct me if I'm wrong, Assessor Goulart, but we should post it as a position itself. But when the Board of Assessors and the Board of Selectmen meet jointly to consider applicants, obviously, we're going to be looking for, I keep saying we, I'm no longer a member of the Board of Selectmen. But
You were never part of this one.
No.
I'm on the team.
But I believe the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Assessors would be looking for somebody who is certified, who could be that second vote to set the tax rate.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
you don't have to make it a requirement of the posting, but you could say, just like certification preferred, but just to let them know, anyone applying has got to understand, just like some of the positions we have in town that require that you must be bondable, that there is a certification required, and if you don't have it, I wasn't certified, obviously, when I got right in, but they're gonna have to do it very quickly because of the time period between when they would start that special town meeting and when we're gonna set tax rates.
Last question, I promise. How long does it take, the 2 courses approximately?
If you can sit down and do it, I usually set a block of an hour and a half, it doesn't take that long, but the problem is, quite frankly, the software that you do online from the Department of Revenue is full of problems. And if you reach a point and something happens, you can't go back to the point, you have to go back to the beginning and start all over again.
Like that,
So that's why when you sit down to do it, you gotta stay with it.
Thank you.
So we need a motion then to post this, and it's my understanding that is it the tax assessors who will be interviewing, we will have a recommendation to the board?
No, it's a joint thing.
There's a joint.
But you would, okay. So you're not gonna, normally a board makes a recommendation to us.
I think what we can do is one assessor and one selectman and Mr. Mullen can go through the applications and narrow it down to, it depends on how many we have, narrow it down to, like we usually do with it, to a certain number. And they would be interviewed and an appointment would be made.
You don't have a problem with that?
And those interviews are public, right? They're not.
I mean, they're not technically their own public body. They're not their own public body, so they wouldn't need to post it.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, yes, so it doesn't have to be done at a board of selectmen meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
But
The appointment would be.
the appointment would be,
Right.
questions can always be asked there. Correct.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Wasn't that just an acknowledgement?
No, I thought we had to,
Post the vacancy.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, that came up. But that's not on the agenda, so this is okay?
Yeah, it's all related to the resignation.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I motion that we post as quickly as possible the vacant position on the Board of Assessors, and, if possible, do the Board of Assessors, highlight them under the board and committee spotlight on the next agenda. It's a way to to get people to know. We need to get someone to apply for this.
Will you be here, Mr. Goulart?
Yes, I'm looking at you.
When is your next meeting, by the way?
October 13th.
October 13th.
October what?
13th. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not, Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Segravas?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also aye.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Minutes, I will, entertain a motion to accept for review the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of August 18, 2021, and September 15, 2021.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the review of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of August 18, 2021, and those of the regular meeting of September 15, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Segravas?
Aye.
And Campuchico is aye. I'll ask, entertain a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of July 14, 2021, July 28, 2021, and August 11, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank Mrs. Brady for cranking these things out. We greatly appreciate it. I know it takes a long time.
Second.
Yes, second.
How do you vote, Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z? Aye. And Campuchico is also aye. Approval of the warrants, Dr. Z?
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the following warrants, all dated September 22nd, 2021. Warrant 12A-22 in the amount of $112,014.09, and 12B-22 in the amount of $219,687.93.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, let's let them know how they vote.
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve the following warrants, all dated September 29th, 2021. 13A-22 in the amount of $127,864.63. 13B-22 in the amount of $28,255.73. And 13C-22 in the amount of $84,896.70.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, let's let them know how they vote.
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. Public input, is there any, first we'll start with Zoom, anybody on Zoom? Public input? Doesn't sound like anybody else, public input?
Yes. Did you say the 15th of October?
No.
13th. Because I looked at that and said, that's a Friday.
Don't show up then, Selectman Goulart.
I'll be the only one here. And I'm not gonna hold you up till 10:30, rest assured. I just want you to know that the NS4 has been filed with the EPA and the DEP. I filed it just before midnight on Saturday, the 25th. I haven't released it yet because I'm waiting to see if I'm gonna get any feedback in case I have to make any adjustments to it, but I did send it to Mr. Mullen and Mr. Perry, since he has a large part of the reporting. I wanted to correct some information that was given out at the first meeting of this month. We talked about the Eagle Scout project on the railroad tracks, but there was another Eagle Scout project mentioned in part of the description about how the Board of Selectmen sort of willy-nilly approved Eagle Scout projects. I had to look that one up. I thought it was the one that I thought of that night. But anyhow, the Eagle Scout project down in the Segregansett River in Segregansett Park, the comment was made that everyone was against it, the neighbors didn't want it, they turned out in force. What they turned out for was a Conservation Commission hearing because it was on the river, literally on the river. It was a picnic table and a seating area. What the neighbors were upset about was not so much the idea of a project. They had problems in the neighborhood, and they figured this was just going to attract more grief with young people tearing things up, vandalism, dirt bikes, you name it. And that's what the opposition to the project was. But it was discussed and before the Concom took the vote, I walked into the meeting, I had been out in the hall because it was so crowded and it was downstairs at the town hall. And I said to them, the problem you're dealing with is not the Eagle Scout project. The problem is you're allowing your neighborhood to be taken over. It's time to take back your neighborhood. If you have those problems, call the police. You don't have to put up with it. They're not gonna go away if this project doesn't occur. You've still got the problem. So anyhow, the Conservation Commission discussed it some more and they approved it. They granted the permission to put the park right on the banks of the river. I was standing in the hall as people were leaving, and the young man who was the Eagle Scout that night, looking for permission, was standing near me. And as the residents came out, a number of them thanked him and wished him the best, okay? So what you heard about, you know, people in arms and the selectmen did it anyhow, it's not what happened. Again, we didn't do those things willy-nilly. And I felt it was a disservice to the Board of Selectmen that I was on at the time, and also the Eagle Scouts and the whole program that we have put together relative to that. The other thing I wanted to address, this is very upsetting. It's been bugging me for 2 weeks. I hope I can get through this. There was a lot of criticism about COVID, about why there was, when we went into the red, there was no emergency meeting. Why 2 members of this board didn't declare that we needed an emergency meeting. I sat there thinking, what is the emergency? There was no mention of the pandemic task force, that if there was really an emergency, they had been right in the thick of it. That it only takes one case to cross the line from yellow into red. And I kept thinking, what has precipitated this? And then there was criticism, there's no leadership in the Board of Health, because we heard that phrase again tonight about no leadership. And I sat there thinking, where is it coming from? The person making the comments has never served on the Board of Health, has never had to respond to filth, fleas, unsafe structures, inspection sites, visits in the bitter cold. I've served with one member of the Board of Selectmen when we were the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health. I also served with 2 members of the sitting board when COVID broke out. I know what was done in this town. I know who worked together. I felt the comments were very inappropriate. They weren't based on facts. And I personally felt the attacks that took place here that night and the remarks about no leadership were totally out of line. I couldn't believe those were being made because there was no basis for them. I take pride in my years on the Board of Health, and I certainly take exception to the criticism that was leveled when I was on the Board of Health and COVID broke out. I would hope that there would be some fact checking before those kind of statements are made again. But the thing that was most upsetting, and this is the part I'm having trouble with, during that tirade and criticism, you used as a basis for making the criticism, and you leaned over with your papers in your hand and said 8 people died. Yes, they certainly did, and one of them was my husband. How dare you? How dare you mention the deaths of the 8 people that at least 8 families in this town lost, and they're still suffering those losses. And you kept that in the same vein and reasoning you used when you criticized the current Board of Health and why this existing board here didn't call an emergency. I will say to you, that was the lowest possible blow. I can take anything myself. You want to criticize me, but when you brought up in the tone, in the manner that you presented that, with a little piece of paper, and you leaned over like you had a big clue, a big announcement, and you said that, I couldn't even speak. I sat there staring at the floor, which is what I did during my husband's funeral mass, so that I could keep it together. And I have been stewing about this ever since, and I just decided I'm gonna let this out there because I'm not the only person in this town who has suffered a terrible loss, and we're all dealing with it. But I really hope before you bring up deaths in this town that were related to COVID, in the vein of criticizing any board members, whether it's the Board of Selectmen, when I was serving with them, or as these two are serving here alone, or it's the Board of Health, because I will tell you point blank, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what was done, you don't know that one selectman and I, back during the previous pandemics, that thank God they didn't come, but he and I went through training to be prepared for that when I was on the board the first time. Tom Pius, Ed Reese, and I were in the meeting room at Morton Hospital Emergency because Bristol County had a task force. That was before we had the organization that is currently in place in this town. I just want you to know how hurtful, and I consider it hateful, that you even brought that up. And I would hope, if you're going to have criticism again, you're gonna base it on facts, on your experience, because you certainly didn't do it that night. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mrs. Gordon, again, sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chief,
He's over.
in response, one, in an earlier meeting, when we discussed the issue of the yellow and the members was going to be on vacation, we had said the steps that we were going to take when we entered into the red. We agreed upon that at that selectmen's meeting, and that didn't happen. That's why, one of the reasons why I was concerned. Two, in my criticism of the agent of the Board of Health, that was based on a number of complaints that I have received from people in the town of Dayton in their interactions with the Board of Health agent. Three, on the issue of those 8 deaths. I worked with one of the people who died of COVID. I gave the eulogy at his funeral. I worked with that individual on a direct basis at the home that I managed for the agency that I worked for. So it has hit me as well. My concern was that there be no more deaths. My concern was that the official, the expert on it, when we entered the red, which by its definition is a concern and a crisis, be present to explain and direct to the townsfolk how they should respond. And that didn't happen until I spoke up, and then he appeared at the meeting.
Andrew? Can you, once, you're all set? Thank you. Any other questions?
I had Mr. Hill tonight speak about the Dayton Water Department. I've attended a couple of their meetings, and they really can't give you a direct answer on this moratorium that they imposed on the town. They said it was gonna be for 2 years. Is it gonna be for 2 years, or is it gonna be for longer?
To answer that question, they haven't decided yet. They keep taking it under advisement, and they haven't given a definite answer as to how long it's going to be extended. I didn't bring it up tonight for that very reason. So I don't have an answer for you, but they haven't officially said. They haven't themselves.
So they can't tell you whether, I mean,
No, because
it's a problem with a lot of businesses in this town.
I am sure the members of that committee each had their own opinion as to what it would be. But until they have a discussion and take an official vote, it's only speculation.
How long are they, how far along are they with their research for a new order?
They're in negotiations on one well in particular, but, I couldn't give you.
6 months ago, there were negotiations.
When I spoke last week to Mr. Clooney, he told me they were close, but they were still negotiating.
Well, it's something that probably you could look into.
So, and ask for more specific answers. You know, when you say close, how close? I will ask them too when they're going to vote.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Just a second.
Second.
Selectman Hull, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Chair votes